Sorry guys, I'm having some technical problems.
It happens.
It seems to happen more in here. It feels like the Bermuda Triangle of technical problems. The regular meeting of the College Township Council for August 20th, 2026. Will all those who are able please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we start our meeting tonight, I would like to announce that council met in an executive session this evening to talk about a personnel matter. Right. To start, I'd like to open up for public discussion. Are there any members of the public in the room or online who would like to address council on matters not listed on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. New agenda items. Are there any members of council that would like to bring forward a new agenda item that is not listed this evening that is in de minimis or emergent in nature? Okay, seeing none. Next up are special presentations this evening. Special presentation, our first is Mr. Chris Gibbons from Concord Financial, who is going to give us an overview of the township's capital project financing options.
Well, good evening. It's nice to be here again with you. Appreciate the time. My name is Chris Gibbons. I'm with Concord Public Financial Advisors. We have served as financial advisor in a fiduciary capacity to the township for, well over 25 years. So always appreciate the opportunity to come out and discuss capital financing and projects with you. For starters, I put in front of you a 5-page handout. And I will try to distill as much as I can of the miles and miles of numbers that is in this handout to something hopefully that is understandable, and we can go from there and ask questions and get input and see what preferences there are. So the first page is the Bond Buyer 20 Index. It's essentially the Dow Jones Industrial Average equivalent of municipal bond rates that have a 20-year term. What it really is just to show you is trends of municipal bond interest rates. And as you can see to the far right, rates have gone up since early 25 and have come down a little bit recently. But as we've all heard countless times in the last several weeks or even months, what is kind of running against lower interest rates, and obviously meaning possible higher interest rates, are federal budget deficits, the continual war, and capital expenses on AI projects. All of those things have a tendency to push interest rates higher. However, if you look at this chart from a kind of a 30-year perspective, it's kind of within the middle range. So it's really not, this presents kind of a terrible picture, honestly, in this study period. But if you took it over a 30-year time, it would just be kind of in the middle. So I think, yes, interest rates are going up, and it appears that there's additional pressure for that to continue. But from a longer perspective, it's not the end of the world in terms of where rates are. So I bring your attention to page 2. Page 2 is really just a narrative of what I was going to talk about for the ensuing pages. So I actually would ask you to skip right to page 3, and I'll walk through that. This is the CIP that was updated several times, I know, over a period of time. So I will just kind of start walking left to right on this page and go from there. Column 1 describes the projects that are under consideration. Column 2 shows you the cost of those projects under consideration, so that, as you can see in the bottom total of column 2, the total project costs are estimated to be $16.348 million. Columns 3, 4, and 5 are grants that are going to offset much of the cost of this project to the tune of about, as you can see in column 6, the total of column 6 is the sum of 3, 4, and 5 of $8.829 million, which means if you wanted to finance everything on this page, the total amount of the new debt that would need to be financed would be column 7 in the green box, $7,518,440. Everybody with me there so far? Now, there is an alternative that we had talked about internally over the last week or so, which was really to reduce that number to a smaller number if the council wanted to determine that's the direction they wanted to go. And what was taken out of column 7 are the yellow lines. And once you take those yellow lines out, the total for those remaining projects that would have to be financed is that salmon box below on the bottom, $5,068,440. So we're really talking about the options going forward here of, are we going to finance $7,518 million, or are we going to finance $5,068,000? So everybody with me so far? I ask you to switch to the next page. Before we get too far into the next page, though, I'll look at column 2, existing debt service. Existing debt service is approximately $615,000 through fiscal year 2035. And keep that dollar amount in your head because that will have an effect on some of the alternatives. That's talking about existing debt service that is currently budgeted in your budget. After 2036, that reduces about $265,000, and after that there is no budgeted debt service remaining to be spent or paid on existing debt. So with that in mind, in the salmon colored box, I tried to be consistent with the page before it, the salmon colored number. Now we're talking about the salmon colored box of $5,068,000. What we put on this page are 3 different financing options. And it's important to note all of these 3, columns 3, 4, and 5, include column 2 in their totals. So column 3, think about this just like a home mortgage, where you pay the same amount of payment every year. And on top of that same amount of payment, you also still have that $600,000 that you're paying for the existing debt. So as a result, the total payments increased by approximately $407,000 at the maximum in 2029. And then once again, while the old debt is all paid off after 2036, you're left with that $400,000. Everybody with me there? So the incremental cost of column 3, option 1, is approximately $407,000. And that's due to $5 million of capital projects. Option 2 takes into consideration column 2, that it essentially says, okay, I know that I have $615,000 in the budget that in the future I could use to allocate for some future debt service costs. And that's what option 2, column 4 does. It takes that $615,000 after 2035 and allocates it to repayment of the debt that is under consideration right now. So really all you're talking about is the incremental cost between the column 2 of $615,000 and you can see column 4 of $828,000. It's about $213,000 a year compared to column 3, about $407,000 a year. It's important to note that the township actually has used this method of financing in other financings as well, so it's something that has been taken under consideration and used. Column 5 then is a modification of column 4 with a little bit of column 3 in it as well. We stay at the roughly $836,000 number through fiscal year 2037, and then stretch out that debt so that effectively, if the township had future capital projects, it could layer that debt into its existing debt service structure as well. So effectively, the difference between column 4 and column 5 is that column 5, the debt is stretched out for a 20-year term, gives future financial flexibility. Before we get off the salmon-colored box, though, it's important to note, anytime you're delaying repayment of principal, which you are doing in columns 4 and 5, it costs more in interest. So you have to really compare the total cost of interest between column 3, column 4, and column 3, column 5. As you can see in this case, the incremental cost between 3 and 4 is not significantly large. It's about $300,000, whereas columns 3 compared to column 5 is, an $800,000 number. So it begins to be a number of interest expense. Now, I think it's important to note, and I know we had this discussion, I remember this discussion we've had in previous years regarding these financing alternatives, that the idea is, yes, you are paying more interest over time, but it also, the projects you will be undertaking now will be beneficial to future taxpayers. So as a result, you're stretching out the cost of that project on future taxpayers who also will benefit from that project. Everybody with me so far? So it gets us to the blue box. It's the larger amount of projects, including all the projects on page 3. And it's the same drill. Column 6, which is option 4, is labeled. In this case, the incremental debt service cost on top of what you're already paying is about $600,000 a year. Column 7, which is again the idea of using that $615,000 of existing debt service to repay this current option of finance, is an incremental $324,000, as is column 8. However, in this case, because you're borrowing an additional incremental $2 million, $2.5 million or so, you can see the difference between column 7 and 8. The debt service falls off not appreciably really till the very end of this financing, because you're kind of using that amount of $615,000 through the entire 20-year term. And then you have the same comparisons again of total interest expense for column 6, 7, and 8. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. Some people see numbers easier on a graph, which is what the last page is. But there's a lot of data points on this graph. It's basically trying to show from the same dollar standpoint that was put before you how that would relate to the various financing options that are put here. I don't think it's important to note unless you want to have specific discussion about those graph points, but effectively these are the same numbers as you have on the page before.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's all I have. There's been discussion, again, from the administrative level of when to borrow this money. Because the College Township Water Authority did a borrowing earlier this year, it could affect the interest rate that the township could pay on the new borrowing by about 10 basis points or so. If you think about a basis point being 1/100th of a percent, or 1% being 100 basis points, I'm talking about 1/10 of 1% more. So from the standpoint of what you're looking at right here, if you did the financing, let's just assume that you did financing today and you did the financing after January 1st. The important thing there is that you would then have the opportunity to borrow at that lower bank qualified rate for the township debt. That would cost you on average approximately about $5,100 more per year. So the idea is, again, if you need to move ahead with the projects now, we would move ahead with the borrowing. If we can delay it by a couple months to have it settle in January, next calendar year, next fiscal year, it would afford you the opportunity of lower interest costs. And I think that's just a small point, but I think it's important to note that there's some reasons to delay the borrowing by a couple months if you decide to move ahead with the projects at all.
So Chris, is this because of the fact that the township council appoints the members of the,
Yes, exactly.
really?
Yeah.
Could you appoint the members?
Appoints the members of the College Township Water Authority. So they're apparently, even though for all practical purposes, they're completely separate entities.
Yeah.
The fact that the market views.
Actually, the IRS, it's an IRS issue.
The IRS views us as a singular entity because we actually do have an involvement with the water authority from the standpoint of the appointments that are made. Other than that, it's a completely separate operation.
Okay.
Township activity, water authority activity. But so the penalty involved here until January 1st of next year is that 1/10 of 1%.
Right.
So council tonight is being asked to give direction to the manager and to staff and to our financial advisor, and I see Mr. Fidelli is here as well. So thank you for being here tonight in case we have questions for you as well. And so we need to make some decisions tonight and give you the direction we need. There's a lot of information here for some of us. I think that information makes quick sense for some of us. There may require a little bit more question. So typically what we do is ask each member of council to give their opinion, ask their questions. I am going to defer this evening to Rich. He is the council member with the most experience in finance, and I would appreciate hearing. The truth is the truth, Rich. You can do that, but we know it's true. And, you know, I mean, each of us has our strengths on this council, and so I like to play to the strengths on our team. And tonight, that would be you first, Rich.
Oh, joy. Adam, did you have anything on the memo?
No, that was just introductory.
Okay. Yeah. Chris and I have done a project or two. Complicated, yeah, and that and everything. I mean, it fundamentally boils down, do we want to do these things? And how are we going to pay for these things if we do them? In recent history, College Township has been do long-term things with long-term dollars. That does have potential interest expense costs. The last loan, not as much. That was darn near free money. It's not that way anymore. So this is going to have costs. The other part, to do a borrowing as a municipality has a significant cost, and so we don't want to do it any more often than you have to, and everything. But if the opportunity's there, Chris has brought us several great opportunities over the years that have ended up benefiting the township as a whole and everything. So when I look at the project list, this is the CIP that we've adopted as a guideline and everything. The question of 5 million versus 7.5 wraps around some flexibility, I think, at the 7.5. We have some things that we know that are potentially coming and everything. So a question to Chris, you know, we're showing this list of, this is what we think we're going to do over the course of this. Should something come up that we want to do this instead of this, have you seen issues with that?
Typically, no. And there's one of two ways to go about it. One is to actually put in the ordinance and other projects to come along. We need to have blessing of bond council to do that, but I know there's some flexibility in that. The other one is you can actually enact an ordinance that says we are going to use it for this, now we're going to use it for that. So, you know, both options get you to the point you want to get to.
Right. The key being that we have flexibility, you know, because things change over the course of this. The other part, we're looking at interest rates now. My personal belief is we're not going to see them come down substantially, but if they do, it creates an opportunity, and Chris has helped us with that several times over the years on everything. The other part, if we don't do any of this stuff, could you know, like, let's say, no, we don't want to do any of this stuff. I think the structure was we were going to do this in draw fashion. Is it?
Correct. Now, so You have opportunity to either borrow it through a bank,
Right.
and many times we've used that flexibility with the township to do that, and quite frankly, we've used the flexibility of this draw that Rich is talking about, where it acts just like a line of credit, just like a credit card. You only pay for the amount of funds you draw down, and you can have up to 3 years to draw all the funds down. So it does reduce and, quite frankly, eliminate some of the interest expense you might have in the first several years.
Right. But bond, you get it all then, but opportunity to pay it, no real opportunity to pay it down
Bonds have an opportunity to pay it down after 5 years.
after 5 years.
The bank loans, we didn't mention actually, the bank loans are very similar to mortgages for the most part, where you can repay it at any time. The only difference, the positive difference for a bank loan that you might consider is if you want to pay it down, you don't have to pay down the back end of the bond, or the bank loan. You could pay down principal amounts every year you have debt outstanding, which means from your budget standpoint, going forward, you always have lower payments.
Yeah, flexibility, a lot more flexibility in those. So when I'm looking at this, do we want to do this stuff? Yes or no? How are we going to pay for this stuff? My personal is long-term thing, long-term dollars. We don't want to borrow any more than we have to. And then the other part is, the other reality is we want to look at this from a cash flow standpoint. If you look at the graph that Chris provided, the two options really jump us up in our annual debt service and everything. And to keep us on, but they extend it out over a longer period of time. And so if you extend it over a longer period of time, you're going to pay more interest and everything. But as we just talked about there, we potentially have opportunities to mitigate that potential additional interest expense by accelerating our principal payments, not drawing as much, different things like that. So when I look at that, I'm kind of in those middle two, and the key is, I think the phrase is wrap. We're wrapping the new stuff around the old stuff to come. And my day job, that's exactly what we do, is we try to balance everything on it. And in my world, we're gonna have debt. And I think the township's similar, unless we want to really whack the taxpayers, which I don't think we'd have a job afterward if we did that. So, just my thoughts.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're looking at column 4 and column 7 on the wraparound debt service for either the 5 million or the 7.5 million.
Option 2
Am I
or
correct
option
about
5.
that? Option
Yeah.
2,
Yes.
option 5, columns 4 and 7.
I think staff,
And I'm doing a quick look back at the graph to have some.
And the difference between option 2 and 5 is the option 2 doesn't have all the things included, correct? That we said we want to do. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Option 5 is all inclusive.
That's correct.
Okay.
that we know as of today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gretchen, I had a lot of experience on the school board with financing capital projects.
Yeah, I have just a few basic questions first. Okay, so for options 4 and 7, those are wraparound or modified wraparound?
Both of those options that you just mentioned are just straight out wraparound.
Wraparound, okay.
Column 7 or option?
She means option 2
I'm
and
sorry,
option 5.
option 2 and option 5.
Yeah.
We'll talk about options from here on out.
Okay.
Yeah, just,
So-
yeah.
Sorry.
Rich is
No.
Rich has expressed his favor for option 2 and option
Option 7.
5. And
Yeah.
option 5.
And option 5,
Yeah.
yep. Sorry,
Yep.
I'm mixing up column and
Yeah,
option.
no.
Okay.
Just so we're all
I
clear,
started
yeah.
the conversation with this.
Okay.
No, absolutely. Options.
Okay, so it seems to me that the first question is, do we want to do the projects highlighted in yellow or not, right? Because that differentiates between 4 and 7.
Right.
And so I mean, that's question one, right? And do we need to decide that tonight?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And,
I would just, yes and no, because
Okay.
that led to my first question.
Well-
Could we substitute another? And I'll just throw an example out. If an opportunity, we just talked about it in the past month or so, if an opportunity came forward to do the Bush Avenue extension, we may reprioritize and say, okay, but the great thing is, we're already set up. We've already got financing in place. It makes us more nimble, in my opinion, makes us more nimble. We've already got our financing in place, and we could move forward with that if an opportunity presented itself.
when you say it makes us more nimble, what's it?
Having the 7.5 versus 5.
Option number 5.
Option number 5.
Having the additional funds,
Having the additional funds, got it,
Yes.
okay, yep.
yeah.
Okay, so that, I needed to know that, so yeah, we need to decide that tonight, okay. And then the loan versus bond, is that something we talk about tonight? No. Those are,
What we
you'll
would
bring
do-
that forward later.
Exactly. What we would do is
Okay.
we would get bank loan requests and response from the banks. They would be held open for 30, 45 days, or whatever, and then we would compare what's in the bond market. Whatever's the lower payment. Bonds usually have higher issuance costs, as Rich had indicated, but usually lower interest costs,
Yep.
interest expense. Vice versa for the bank loan, lower borrowing costs, higher interest rate. So then you just know what is the lower payment. The only caveat to that is what Rich just mentioned. Sometimes you're okay with using bank loan financing even if it's a little higher because of that flexibility. So that's, and we're not here to talk about that today, but that will be part of the process, yes.
Yeah, so that's helpful. So we don't need to talk about that tonight. That will.
That part?
Right.
Bond or bond? No.
Loan versus bond. That
That'll be
will
a separate-
come in the next step, and we will see specific numbers and the benefits
Yes.
and cons to both of those at a later date. Okay. So tonight, we're really deciding, do we want to do wraparound, and do we want to do the additional borrowing, which is option 5 instead of option 2? Those are the two main things we're doing tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if I could, just
Yeah.
to clarify, we're basically, based on our answers, asking Chris to go to market for
Yes.
those. And then we still have another bite at the apple to
Right.
say, we do want to do this, we don't want to do that.
Right.
And everything
Yeah.
like that. So just to confirm, whatever
Yeah.
we say today is just to empower Chris to go to market and find out what that really looks like.
Right.
And this is his
Which
projection.
he'll bring back to us next time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just would sort of reiterate what Rich said, but we need to figure out, obviously, the answers to those two questions of how we want to direct the process going forward. But then also, just looking at the timing of it, do we want it to be more evened out? Do we want to, but then we're going to pay more interest? Do we want to do it quicker, but then it's not going to be even for the taxpayers, and looking at the responsibility we have to the future taxpayers versus current taxpayers? And, I guess those specifics, I won't really be able to process until I see the next round, of information from you, Chris, with the specific scenarios of loan versus bond. The fact that you can revisit the bond after 5 years, I mean, that provides flexibility, right? Because, we keep saying that loan is more flexible. But again, from my experience on the school board and dealing with bonds, we got some pretty good financial benefits to the school district, revisiting those bonds after the 5 years. So I guess we don't know, right? We don't know. And so to a certain degree, and this is, I feel like I should probably stop talking, because I feel like this is going to be for the next round of information, but, we don't have a crystal ball. We're going to have to do our
Right.
best, but.
Yeah.
And I agree with Rich. I think the wraparound makes a lot of sense, and I also think that option 5 gives us more flexibility to be nimble. I think being nimble is a very good thing in local government.
Tracy?
Yeah, I would agree, because I know Public Works, the new bill would be something we would want to do, and that's in, if we took that out, that would be in the yellow. And so I'm opposed to that, so I would say yes to option 5.
For all the previous reasons that everyone else has stated, and they don't need to be restated, I would agree with options 2 and 5.
Options 2 and 5?
Options 2 and 5. So options 2 and 5 would be the wraparound debt service for the 2 different amounts, and the decision on the bank loan versus the bond will come next. And I do think that based on the consensus I'm hearing from council is that we're most interested in option 5, financing all of, or finding financing for all the potential projects with whatever mechanism we need to be able to be flexible with how we draw the money.
Great.
And pay it back if we need to do that.
But you don't see any issue going and asking for 5 and 7? And then-
No, I don't know if necessarily it's that significant of a difference. If you look at different, between option 2 and option 5, it's really only like $110,000 difference.
Only.
Well,
So I think that's
Only.
really the.
Only.
Sorry. Got me.
Well, and council can correct me, but I think that we are, as a consensus decision, we are most interested in option 5 because that will give us the flexibility to take on those additional projects. Or as you pointed out, Rich, if we need to do the Bush Avenue extension, we can make that decision to move those project priorities around. So.
Or whatever comes before us.
Yeah.
I mean, again, going to the
We can't
crystal
be a crystal
ball. Yeah.
But I think, I was struggling with just approaching this before the meeting because of the bond versus the bank loan issue and the timing of the two and the costs of the 2 different types of debt that we would take on. So that was very helpful. Your questions helped me factor that out. So I think the consensus decision is more strongly in favor of option 5, but we're also interested in knowing what you can find for us on option 2. Mr. Fideli, did you want to come to the?
Sure. So I could maybe add a little color to the conversation. Adam and I started this
Oh, you are?
almost a year ago.
You are?
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe Fideli.
Thank you.
I'm the CPA and consultant and auditor to the Township and Water Authority.
Thank you.
So Adam and I have had a conversation, an opportunity to talk about debt and borrowings and in connection with the Water Authority, and then we'd be sitting there and say, oh, by the way, next year I'm gonna have all these projects, I got Shiloh, I got this, I got bike path, I got that, I got this, I got that. And so we started talking about, the needs and the renovations and those kinds of stuff. And then I had the pleasure of presenting the audit report on the same night that all y'all discussed the 2026 capital improvement plan as a working document.
Right.
Okay, so we were talking about what we needed, what the township needed in terms of borrowings for the renovation, for this project, for that project, given flexibility because we might have to pay for stuff before the grants come in and they're reimbursable. So there's a lot of moving parts. And so I said to the group, and I said, well, you're going to have issuance costs. You're going to go to the market. You're going to have, Chris's time. You're going to have bond counsel. You're going to have a lot of people, with their fingers in the pie. And I just heard you discuss like $30 million worth of projects a week ago. So if we're going to go to the market, and if we're going to borrow money, and if we're going to incur the costs, what do you really want to borrow? Do you really want to just borrow your near horizon, or do you want to do something a little longer out? And Chris comes in and taps me on the shoulder, said, Joe, you can do that, but you have to have a reasonable explanation, reasonable expectation to spend the money in 3 years. 3 years. We talked about, being able to step up your debt service and you have a little bit of flexibility in your budget where you can step up your budget to meet a stepped up debt service amount. So when we met with Rich, we talked about these projects, because Adam said, well, I can throw $2 million at this and $3 million at that. And it forced everybody to say, okay, well, if we're going to have the costs, and if we have the opportunity, and if we're going to borrow anyway, then what else is on our, on our sort of committed to do list? Not that it can't be changed, not that we can't substitute one project for another depending on opportunities and those types of things, but you have all that flexibility. The drawdown loan with the bank, you may not incur all this debt service. This is the highest maximum debt service, assuming you borrow all the money on the first day. Okay, and you likely won't. So even though you're budgeting for all of this, you may not have all of this, so that extra savings gives you, money in the tank to pursue, other, maybe some smaller projects, but you still have money left over. And the other thing I would submit is that if you're going to do option 5 versus option 2, if you go with option 5 and change your mind, kind of with the stroke of a pencil, you can have option 2 and just pay down those other bonds. So, you're not prejudicing your opportunity to have option 2 by selecting option 5. It's just how many times he has to go to the bank and explain stuff with the banks. So, it's kind of, in my view, option 2 is included in option 5, because if you change your mind, just go down and pay down the debt or don't borrow. Plain and simple. I mean, that's kind of plain. I don't know if it's simple, but.
Simple
So
left
I
the
have a
building.
question for you. Typically, I ask council to ask the questions first, but, so are you giving us some sort of recommendation to look at option 5 as the single option?
My guidance would be that option 5 is option 2 and 5, only you don't have to go and explain to the banks twice. Really, when it comes out to it. So option 5 gives you the most flexibility. If you don't, if the extra $2.5 million doesn't come to fruition, doesn't have substitution, and you just want to say, okay, that's all we're going to do, we're going to pay it down, then
Right.
you would have the opportunity to enjoy the results of option 2 just by,
Without
paying some
penalty.
of the debt.
Without penalty.
Right. There's no penalty for prepaying any of this.
Right.
Okay.
That's a big,
On a bank
The ba-
loan.
Yeah,
bonds,
but on the
you would have-
bond,
you
it's
would have
different. We'd have to
defeasance
wait a
costs
few
and
years.
those
Right.
kinds of
Yes.
things. But on a bank loan, you only pay for what you borrow. You can pay it back any time. You can pick and choose which maturity you want to pay. You can pay this one, you can pay that one, you can pay the one in the middle, and see what that does to the interest expense.
Well, and I think that will be the next level decision-making, so having you back when we make that decision and bringing back those reminders and recommendations will be very helpful to us.
Anytime,
Yeah,
anytime.
and I'm sorry, as long as you're up there, Gretchen, you had a question, or?
Well, I didn't have a question for you necessarily specifically, but it was more, I guess, to council as a whole. I think it's important that we ask for both scenarios to be brought to us, options 2 and 5. It's good to have this additional information, but I think it's important that we have both brought forward to us for the next round of conversation about this because of transparency, so that it's very clear to the public and to us and to staff what the options are. And it's also good to have both options to look at, to be able to just process more in terms of comparison, the pros and cons of each. And so and in my experience, it is much better to go ahead and bring forward both before we make a final decision. So that's my 2 cents on that.
So I think we're winning, if we're going down to 2 from 6 options, we're winning. And then one other thing that I thought of, the potential, and this is potentially for the next conversation-ish, if we went the bank route, we've seen it at COG, we've seen it here, that it's the 3 years, but we have the ability to request to extend the draw period. Is that
Yes,
true?
quite frankly, we just did that with the township loan.
Yeah, yeah, so we may be able to take this even further than we're currently looking with the bank side. So just to keep that in the back of your mind too.
It's helpful. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think you have what you need. We're looking for our choices on options 2 and 5. And
Great.
appreciate your help and for all of us. And Mr. Fidelli, thank you too. And
You're welcome. Anytime.
and thank you, council.
Thank you, Chris. Stay out of the tornadoes.
Be safe. Be safe. I almost thought we were done. I was like, okay, well.
Just kidding.
Motion to, no.
I wasn't even going to ask for a motion. I was just going to get up and go home. Okay, we're done.
We would follow you.
Okay, let's go. But that would be so unfair to our friend Pam. So the next item up is our second special presentation of the night. Pam Adams is here from the COG Regional Planning Agency to talk about the FLUME, the Future Land Use Map. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, Pam Adams, Regional Planning Director. If you recall, we were here, Jen and I, for May 5th, where we had a joint meeting with the Planning Commission and the elected officials, and we worked through future land use map. So there's a memo in the agenda, and I'm going to go through that. So just briefly, what we're going to cover tonight is we're going to review that. I've got a couple slides to walk through. Prior to the joint meeting, we had an open house where we collected some information, so we'll share that. And we'll talk about future growth areas as well as criteria for what could be the triggers for when we need future growth. And then lastly, we're going to start talking about sharing land uses. So that's something new that's coming, not part of the recap memo, but we want to start that training. On the next slide, in the memo, we talk about several things, but I'll just refresh your memory since that meeting was back in May. We did provide data and information on the capacity of what's remaining in the regional growth boundary. We've looked at it regionally. We provided information for College Township, and there is capacity within the regional growth boundary for the projected needs. But College Township has been working on forward planning, thinking of future growth areas, and that is beneficial because we don't control the market and the demand for things, and so there are...
Pam, I just want to interrupt for a second. Mark, do you mind asking if they could tone down their conversation because it's a little
Just
distracting?
close
Yeah,
the
shut
door.
the door, whatever. It looks like it's over. Sorry, Pam, I was having a hard time. I was
Yeah,
a
they
little
were
distracted,
long.
so thank you. Thank
Yep,
you. Sorry
yep.
to interrupt. Please
No
go.
problem, no problem. And so in the memo, we also talk about how we've talked at the meeting about the future growth areas, and then we've talked about collectively at all of the municipalities, recognizing that the capacity within is getting tight, and we should proactively be planning for how we're going to grow and what those criteria are, sort of developing a framework of when it is the right time for this growth. We also talked at the joint meetings about some long-term sewage planning issues with our outside the regional growth boundary, some of our on-lot septic. So I'm going to go through each of those during this discussion. First, though, we'll go through the open house results. So if you recall, there were boards put up of each of the big ideas, and each big idea had respective goals. And then each participant got 3 dots, and they ranked them in their first, second, and third priority. During May 5th, we did this, and then General Forum also had an open house in June that we also got some more College Township feedback. I will note that, while the numbers aren't a great sampling of your whole community, right, they're not statistically valid, what I can say from looking at College Township versus Harris is they do reflect a lot of the personality of each municipality, so hopefully when you're seeing this, you feel that's the case also. So I find it quite interesting, but it seems very representative of each municipality having its own character. So for the first big idea, fostering housing variety, you'll see that they're pretty evenly distributed, right? And so College Township residents see this as a multifaceted issue. It also helps reaffirm that we've probably got the goals right, that there's a lot of interest in all of these, recognizing how to get more housing variety. One of the options was to identify other goals that were missing and what we're missing, but most of what we've heard as far as feedback were strategies. The biggest support, if you click the next button, it'll circle, I think, does it pop up? Yeah. Supporting attainable housing rose to the top. If you look at the top, one of the priorities, but there is definitely support for maintaining long-term housing occupancy and more housing options. On the next one, the Connecting Beyond Cars, that one emphasized, again, very consistent across all of them, and this is not the case in all the municipalities, but it is representative of College Township. The top one, if you click the next button, will say improving what we already have was a top priority for College Township, with maintaining and investing in existing communities while developing complete bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure is close behind, right? So taking care of what you have and then filling in those gaps also made sense for the multimodal. For the next big idea, partnering for a thriving future, participants supported regional coordination and infrastructure planning. If you click the button, you can see that middle one was a top one, as well as fostering strategic and sustainable economic growth. And as a regional planning agency, I think it's great to hear about the regional coordination and infrastructure planning, recognizing that the municipal lines really don't matter when you're looking at transportation, environmental considerations, and growth, right? We should value looking at this from a regional level. The fourth big idea was purposeful community design. And for this one, again, I didn't even circle one there because they all like housing. The priorities were pretty evenly distributed, and they favored reinvestment, again, making better use of existing infrastructure. So similar to what we heard about the transportation side, recognizing that all of these are multifaceted and important. On the last big idea, environmental stewardship, this was an area that there were two strong leaders. Residents wanted future growth balanced with conservation, and then they also put a high mark on protecting water resources and the township's environmental assets. And this one, of all of them, was pretty consistent throughout the region as far as top priorities. And again, it's that balance that a lot of people recognize, which is a challenge and an opportunity. So those are the open house results and help sort of define the priorities of the municipality. In the memorandum, we talked about identifying future growth areas. And so part of the exercise at each of the municipalities was to look at our capacity within and then discuss designated growth. That's kind of the growth that's within the regional growth boundary. And again, because of the work College Township has been doing at the Dale Summit area, you're in a good position to consider where future growth should be. So College Township is the only one who's currently identified future growth areas. I will say tonight's the first night of going to boards and councils, but we've been through all the planning commissions. That just ended on Tuesday with Half Moon Township. And we're trying to make sure we've documented correctly, and what we've heard is what you've heard. So for the future land use map, we brought that forward to you, and this would be the draft that we're asking for your recommendation that it goes to CRPC with your approval. The future growth areas are designated up here, and I'll just, in these two areas, they would be designated as future growth areas, and that box says future growth areas designate locations beyond the regional growth boundary sewer service area that may accommodate longer-term residential and employment growth, including higher density and more intensive uses. Should future conditions warrant expansion of the regional growth area and sewer service area, and should infrastructure and public utilities be extendable to support such growth. So that is what we're looking at as your future land use map. Obviously, the CRPC will look at it from the whole region. and that designation as far as the classification is neighborhood mixed-use corridor, which is similar to your form-based code that you've been working on for the Dale Summit area. So this represents what we heard from the meeting. The Planning Commission has reviewed this and recommends and supports this for council to decide. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be looking for feedback on this, and we can pause if you have any questions on this.
Any questions? The only thing I want a clarification on, are you saying these are identified future growth areas outside the regional growth boundary?
Yes, they are. They're outside the regional growth boundary. Does not mean that the expansion is happening now.
Right.
It's designating it for future growth. We'll talk about some of the criteria for when that would be the time, and College Township would be able to bring those forward.
Did you say College Township is the only one identified as?
Yeah, so we talked to each of the municipalities and went through the exercise, and they all looked at their capacity within and looked at the vacant parcels. And so others are looking at designating growth and changing some from low density to medium density for housing. And if you recall, like Ferguson and Patton both have approved land development plans. So they're going to try to focus on getting those built before they start looking at expanding. And some define future growth areas, but they weren't ready to put anything on a map yet.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, now from a regional perspective, if you recall when we looked at the capacity, and we review this every 5 years, there is capacity for the projections. But we don't control the build rate, we don't control the market, and demand could come quicker if it's available, right? And so by having some future growth areas is a smart plan as a regional wide. If everybody wanted to have future growth areas in every direction, we'd have to probably evaluate that a little bit stronger. And if you look at where future growth makes sense, look at where growth is happening outside the center region, and instead of leapfrogging over to other municipalities, maybe that continuous growth area makes sense. So we're trying to look at it within the center region, but also for Center County, right? Like, where does growth make sense? There's a strong interest in preserving the farmlands that are around us. So from a regional perspective, this is not that surprising to us. So while you guys sit on that, we'll go to the next thing. So another thing that was in the memo and that we discussed at the joint meeting, through the process of stakeholders and focus groups, we've talked to the sewage enforcement officers and have identified, not only in College Township, but in all of the municipalities really other than State College Borough, that there are older neighborhoods with on-lot sewage disposal methods that will be coming up to having some challenges. It could be environmental constraints, or it could be that there'll be system failures. And so we know for some it could be in 5 to 10 years, others it could be 15 to 20 years. But we really need to look at these on-lot septic systems where there are the potentials for failures and start that planning. So the example provided for College Township is on that old Hauserville Road. It's not saying there aren't others. This is something that we're not going to solve today, but that in the comprehensive plan, we're going to identify it as an action that needs to happen in the coming years. Probably 2027, we'll start looking at sewage planning as for outside the regional growth boundary as well as in. So that was also identified in the memo. And then, so then we have criteria. So basically, with the regional growth boundary, we always, every 5 years, have been doing the regional development capacity report, trying to look at, what capacity we have. We recognize that it's getting tighter and tighter. So having and thinking about where we want to direct growth is a benefit. That's the way we should be doing it, and not just letting it happen wherever. But we also think that there could be a suitability framework, right? We don't want it to be everywhere. There might be some priorities. So we've sort of identified some triggers, if you want to say, some criteria that we want to be looking at if we're going to be looking at expanding the regional growth boundary. And that could be capacity. As I said, this red cap report, we're looking at projections. Projections could come in quicker and we might need more housing before we realize it. But again, we'll be watching that data and being ready to have it available. We also have to match that with infrastructure availability and proximity and cost effectiveness, right? So we want to be looking at those needs and talking to our wastewater, water authorities and transportation. We know and should be looking at the demand need. Housing is one of them, but maybe there's a new job hub or an economic hub or center that will come in. And we want to be able to have the regional growth boundary expanded. That would be a regional decision, but that could be a demand that comes in the future. Regional coordination is something that everybody values, and we want to make sure that continues to happen, and we look at it holistically. And particularly for College Township, having some coordination with Benner Township is also going to make a lot of sense when you look at where your future growth areas are. And then lastly, the environmental clearance. As we know from the community, that the environmental considerations are important, so we want to be making sure we're not sending growth in one area that's going to put our natural resources in harm. So on this slide, or the next part of the table, you see some of the criteria that we've identified. And so we're looking for feedback if we're missing certain things that should be something that we should be looking as a trigger for expanding the regional growth boundary, or the criteria for the environmental and staff analysis, which also includes sort of infrastructure capacity and the character, the existing development patterns, right? You don't want to take a nice, quaint little neighborhood and put some big thing right next to it. You have to consider those things as you're working through where growth should happen. So that is an area for feedback, but this is something we're planning to work into the comprehensive plan. We'll continue to be talking about this, but this is one of the ways that we're looking to balance future growth to make sure that we're doing it purposely. So I think that wraps up the conversation that was in the recap memo and is from the joint meeting. But I have two slides that we want to talk about sharing of land uses. So as the future land use map is coming to, an end with being approved, hopefully, by all the municipalities, and CRPC will get it. That's one component of the comprehensive plan. We're working on the goals and the strategies with staff and COG committees, and CRPC will see the strategies and keep working through that. Third component is the sharing of land uses, and this is something that's always been part of a regional comprehensive plan, but it's never been codified, if you want to say. So we're working with Strategic Solutions, and they're facilitating a discussion with all of the municipal staff that works on planning, and trying to look at, what the benefits are, and understanding them is important, but it can help coordinate growth, avoid conflicting land use patterns, and ensure regional needs are met without requiring every community to accommodate every use. And so it does support consistent policies, it's stronger ordinance defensibility, and it will help with development patterns that align with each community's character and capacity. So we're looking at some shared land uses, we're talking about them at staff level. There will be an implementation agreement, and College and Patton currently have one. So this is something that's already happening in the region between College and Patton. College provides for industrial, Patton provides for multifamily. But we're looking at this now, making it a benefit for all of the region, so that, we'll take a casino as an example, and that's not a great one. You could say data centers also. But there, when you look at things for each municipality having to provide for every land use, that's not very efficient use of how we want our region to look, right? If we could all look at it from the holistic of the whole region, then not everybody has to provide for self-storage units. Not everybody has to provide for hospitals and data centers. So we're not saying this is for all land uses. We've been working through it month by month and narrowing the list down. We're getting close to having a list that's ready for the managers and solicitors to review. It will come to Planning Commission. It will come before you as well. On the next slide, there's some examples of which I mentioned And this is just draft, these are not the ones that we're saying are final, but these are some examples. And what I will also say is, sure, casino's already, said and done, probably not gonna have another one, but if we build this context and get used to it, whatever the next thing is, it's been warehouses 10 years ago, now it's data centers. We believe the next one's gonna be energy generation facilities, micronuclear. Where do we want to have these? If we can look at it, again, for all 6 municipalities, we have more flexibility in that discussion. So the idea is to start building that shared land use. It protects us from legal challenges. It allows State College Borough to get rid of their industrial, maybe Half Moon. Again, we're not saying anybody has to do it. We're trying to figure out what works best so each community can keep its character. And again, these are just draft, just a sample. And more will be coming on this. We're just starting the education piece to try to answer questions, see what questions people have. And this is, again, something new to the group, but College and Patton already have it. So that is where, that's the end of my presentation. So I'll open up for questions, recognizing that what I am looking for tonight on the next slide is for you to, provide any feedback if I've not heard or documented something correctly. I'd like to know that. And then forward the future land use map to CRPC, the Center Region Planning Commission, with your approval, with your support for CRPC to approve it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was helpful, and that was a lot, but well done. And thank you for the memo, too. That was a that was good information to review before this, so it made this more approachable tonight. So with that, I would like to open it up. What I'm understanding is you want feedback on not specifically, but you emphasized the regional growth boundary, the sewer service area. There were some environmental considerations. It was a couple slides back. Are you looking for that specifically, or more just sort of our general perspective?
So I am looking to see if this is acceptable to,
Okay.
if this is what you heard from the joint meeting,
Okay.
this is the main thing I'm looking for approval to take this to CRPC. Recognizing that College Township is the first one, we're going to 5 more, won't go to CRPC till September. They're probably going to see a draft because it's been to all the planning commissions, but it won't go to them probably till November, so it's not like you have to.
Okay.
You're not comfortable making that final recommendation
Okay.
yet, that is fine. As far as the criteria, I'm looking for feedback on that if I'm missing something, but
Okay.
that's.
All right. Okay. Gretchen.
Well, thank you, Pam. It's always neat to see the product after the information gathering session that we did. So thank you for that. I kind of only have one comment, and I don't necessarily know that it's specifically reflected in this or not, but it was in some of the comments you made. And that is this idea that that College Township is industrial, and that the other townships, when they don't want something, they just send it over here, because we'll take everybody's undesirable projects. And so I just want us to be cautious about that, because, there are beautiful neighborhoods in College Township. There are historical, like the center furnace and the mansion, there's these really treasures, historical treasures also in College Township. And so, and I know that there's also a really big desire for connectivity, especially from Elmwood, where people are crossing the street constantly anyway. And even driving here tonight to this meeting, I saw 7 bikers on 26, which is completely unsafe, because I've done it myself. So anyway, these goals that we have for connectivity, for example. So I just want us to all be careful about that, building that reputation or not building that reputation of College Township as being like the garbage disposal or something, like where, oh, just throw it over there because we don't want it here. We have, you know, in Patton, we have these great, you know, neighborhoods and all these, the housing is just unbelievable and we're so neighborly. Oh, a data center? Oh, send that to College, because that's what they do over there. And the reason I say that is because I've now heard it once from, in a public meeting, but I've also heard it through correspondence that council has received in the past from other electeds. And so I just don't think that the citizens of College Township appreciate that, nor do they see that as a good future for the township. So anyway, like I said, I don't think it's specifically in this, but I did hear it mentioned, and it's sort of a pet peeve, I think, of not only myself, but, you know, other citizens in the township who are, you know, proud of our community. So that's
Yeah.
all I have.
And I'll just clarify, I don't think I said that tonight. Do you hear, did I say that tonight? You felt that I said that tonight, because I did not. You currently have a implementation
industrial.
agreement
Yeah.
where you share industrial with
Well, you were
Patton.
talking about, you know, preserving the identities of the townships and working together, and you don't want like a big thing next to a, you know, a nice little community, and your example was College Industrial and Patton, you know, nice housing.
Yeah,
And so,
that
and
did
I
not-
could be hypersensitive to
Okay.
it.
Perfect. I did not
Guilty.
intend to make that connection directly into, I was just saying that you currently
Yeah.
have that shared land use agreement. And so I hear you, but I did not mean to say that. I do think that, yes, everybody is cognizant, even at the regional level discussion, that it shouldn't all be that you're getting the garbage of what nobody else wants. So I don't think there's many in the region. They might feel like that's the easy solution, so that is something to be worked through. But we are certainly not promoting that as far as that it's all going to College.
If I may make a quick comment on that, one of the things that has to happen, and Pam did say this tonight, just as we have an implementation agreement with Patton Township, what you're suggesting is very much in the same vein. There would need to be an implementation agreement amongst and between ourselves and anybody that wanted to provide or wanted us to provide a particular use. Well, we have to get something out of that as well. And if that doesn't mesh and that doesn't match, I think that we have a great degree of control over avoiding the scenario that you suggested. But I think it's an important point to make. I don't think that should be the first, you know, the first option shouldn't be, well, let's send it to College Township because they've identified future growth areas. So I do agree 100% with that. I just wanted to remind council that this is a negotiation, if you will.
Right.
So we do have those options should they ever present themselves.
Yeah, I will also just to reaffirm that there's been discussions at other municipalities at the planning commission level so far that, well, if College Township is getting some of that, they're getting a lot of revenue, and how do we balance that? And so they have to think about what they don't want to give up also. Like, so there's recognition that there's pros and cons to all of this. And those are good discussions to have. Not easy, but good discussions.
Tracy?
Yeah, I don't have any, I don't think anything was lacking in this. I just have just a couple questions. I know that there was not the turnout as far as like the May 5th wasn't the turnout we expected. But is there, I mean, never mind, because it doesn't go with this, but I was just thinking maybe, is there another way that could have been, that information could have been dispersed, so we could have gotten more participation.
Yeah, I will say that this was from the open house.
Yeah.
We've done surveys in '24, we've done community engagement, so
Okay.
we've been taking all that information, and that's how we came up with a lot of these strategies, is from the community.
Okay.
So we continue to work through them, and,
So
you
they
know,
were comparable.
Yes, yes.
and
Every,
so-
they continue to align, and we kind of keep funneling them down based
Gotcha.
on
Okay.
information.
Yeah, but thank you for your
Yep.
work. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Rich?
Yeah, we are a little ahead of the curve, which is great. The interesting point about the agreements and stuff, where I took that is we have some things that we've had for a long time. Quarry, nobody else
Right.
wants a quarry. Nobody else wants a casino. And if we can afford an opportunity to get something in return, useful to us in return for elsewhere not having to have those things that we've had for so long, and don't appear to be going anywhere, then it may be an opportunity. But it's a negotiated thing, and it's got to be in our interests and everything. So that was great. I really don't have anything else on this. I think I have a little bit of an oddball question, since we have the opportunity to have our gracious planning director here. So Act 537, that's coming up.
So, there is no date that has to come up. It's from 2006 was the last time it was updated, but it's a living document where we've done several special studies to work through it. After the comprehensive plan, there's the septic tank
Yep.
issue we talked about, but there's also, you know, potential
boundary.
changes when we're looking at designated growth, future growth. What are those impacts on infrastructure? So in 2027, the idea is that we start evaluating what is the scope? Is it a full Act 537 plan? You know, until we know what for sure this regional growth, if we're only changing a couple areas with future growth, is it a special study? What are the costs for a whole Act 537 plan if we only need it for certain things? So that process will start happening in 2027 is the vision after this. It seems that it's a strong interest to everybody. So DEP is not requiring us to do an updated Act 537 plan. They're like, we use yours as an example because you are updating it. It's just as it goes. So we'll have to evaluate what's the best mechanism to update it based on the comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just to clarify for all members of council, the Act 537 plan is, in brief,
Yep, it's the wastewater sewage disposal plan. So it includes outside and inside, basically the center region, not just within the regional growth boundary. There's public service sewer, but it's also for the on-lot septic. So that's where it might behoove us to do a special study on on-lot septics, and then another special study on, you know, this growth and figure those out.
thank you.
I
Sorry.
I may have been channeling my inner Eric Bernier and being the rhetorical oracle that I already knew that answer, but I wanted everybody to hear that answer. So, one of the things you're aware that we're having a disagreement in the region on EDU billing versus volumetric billing. and
Correct.
everything. Hands down, the authority sets the rate for what that is, period. That's what they're there for, it's to set the authority. Does the 537 allow the members to opine in on how that is structured, though?
The rate structure as far as
Whether it be
volumetric.
correct.
The Act 537 plan is, I would have to get back to you on that.
That's fine,
because- yeah.
that's fine. But it is a question.
Yep,
You know, it'll allow us to be the arbiter.
right. It seems that that's where we are right now, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, that would be a good question because it seems that they're kind of stuck over there on that. And as we know, there's, you know, State College Borough and UAJ are also having that battle, so there's
We've heard
a
rumors.
lot of that should be resolved before we go, if we're looking at a full Act 537 plan, because we'd like full cooperation, but
Right,
I can
exactly.
ask about that.
Exactly, yeah, that's kind of where we need to be on the same sheet for all
Yes.
of it. That's an important, critical piece of all that, and we should all be on the same sheet before we move forward with
Agreed.
the rest of this.
Agreed.
Okay, excellent. That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again, Pam.
Yep.
What I took out of this is, obviously this is the regional plan, but we are moving to regional thinking when we are looking at land planning and development, land use. You brought up an important point, Gretchen. I've heard some of the same, what I would say are throwaway comments by people talking carelessly about what that implementation agreement really means. And especially with regard to data centers, well, we'll just put our data centers over in College Township. I think College Township staff did a great job getting ahead of that and recognizing that by bringing data centers in under conditional use, that gives us as much control as we possibly can without violating the MPC. I also thought it was interesting, it made me think about the implementation agreement, Gretchen, that we agreed to take the industrial uses and Patton took the multifamily residential use, which now we're looking at the Dale Summit area and we're bringing multifamily residential into the Dale Summit area as part of the, it's the essence of the planning. So I like the idea that we're thinking more regionally because some of these, you said it, Rich, this implementation plan was put in place a long time ago when there were different considerations for the different townships. So this regional thinking, which is behind all this, gives us an opportunity to revisit those. And like everything else, those are those living documents that maybe the implementation plan we had in place might not work for us going forward. And so we'll negotiate that. I did the environmental, what members of the public that gave feedback sort of shared the importance of incorporating environmental considerations with our planning efforts, particularly outside of the regional growth boundary. It reminded me of the work that Shane Adams did with the GIS mapping and the 5 layers that he put in over the Rockview property that, really there was a lot of conversation. Well, are we going to conserve this? Are we going to do this? Well, guess what? We have some real limitations. We have geographically, we have all kinds of limitations. So I think that was a really helpful tool, and I hope that we put that to good use because a lot more data before we start the conversations might help us focus our thinking rather than necessarily always being informed by opinion. So
Right.
I really appreciated that work for Shane. That visual for me really worked. Yeah, so I think that covers my comments and my observations. I think this is really well done. I appreciated what Tracy said about making sure we're incorporating it. I remember when everybody was at when the planning group was at the Spikes game and you had everything out and people were, so I mean, it was a great place to get a lot of opinions. And
Right.
so, it was really creative thinking. So really appreciated that too. Did you get from us what you think you need tonight?
Yes, are you
Sorry.
in agreement with the future land use map as it looks there, with the future growth areas defined? Staff has reviewed this, Planning Commission has reviewed it. I'm just looking for your final okay to give it to CRPC.
Consensus from our group tonight?
I'm okay with that.
Yep, you got it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We know where to find you. I'll be back. Well, that's good. We look forward to you coming back. Thanks, Pam. Next up on the agenda, I keep thinking it's time to go.
You're not going to get a fight.
Great. Oh, wow, that was a great meeting.
Do you not want to spend any more time with us, or
Such good
what?
council discussion. No, I'm so inspired. Anyway, plans. We don't have any tonight. We will be talking a little bit in OB1 with Mike about some of what came up from our last discussion on plans, but that's in the old business. Tonight we have the reports. We have the manager's update. Let's start out with Adam.
Okay, great. I'm going to warn my staff that I'm going to actually ask for some contributions here. So Dawn, get ready. We have our next form-based code special meeting is scheduled for August 26th, so keep that in mind, keep that on your calendars, keep that evening free. We did have some information this week on Path to Campus. Dawn, if you wanted to maybe quickly summarize kind of what we were meeting with and what we were meeting about with Keller Engineering.
Well, with Keller, we were discussing the stormwater issues. They need to do some stormwater basin, some detention, and some volume controls. And they were going over a couple different alternatives for that, and we gave them some input as to which ones we feel are the most likely to work. So they're working on that. We also talked with the archaeologist. He is still wrapping up his
The resubmission.
resubmission based on the comments received from PennDOT. Basically, the good news is there was no additional work needed. It's just cleaning up the report, and the report's that thick, and they went through every page and found lots of little typos, or I'll call them, to go over. So the archaeologist is working on that. Now, one of the options we are looking at, going back to the stormwater, would be doing a basin along College Avenue. And so there may be some additional testing needed there, test pits. The archaeologist said, well, once we know for sure, they'll get on it right away. So, yeah, those are the two biggies.
Okay. We didn't want to talk about trees or anything?
No?
Okay.
No, okay, well,
I think he knows what he wants to talk about.
Want to?
All right, thank you, Don.
okay, I don't want to, but I will.
Do we need to?
That was the question.
Yes, we probably should. As part of our not the archaeological, the
Right-of-way.
the right-of-way and the environmental, we will be doing some tree removal. And the one sticking point will be due to the northern long-eared bat, the tricolored bat, and the Indiana bat. There's now 3 species that are in the area that are endangered and or threatened. So because of those, the possible presence of bats, typically we are only allowed to cut trees between November and like March 15th or something, but it's November through March. We're looking to bid this project sometime summer of 2027, a little bit later than we were hoping to, but there's been some delays due to the extension due to the archaeological study needed, and the stormwater has proven to be a little more difficult. But where that comes into a problem, if we could bid this thing, let's say we bid it in June, we wouldn't be able to start any work until November, because the trees are the first thing that's going to need to come down. We can't start a path until we have the trees out of the way. So we're looking to see if there's some way we can do the just fell the trees in the winter, no earth disturbance. We just drop the trees over, and then once the project starts, then they could work on cleaning it up. So that we don't want that to hold us up until November of 27 to start the project, because then we're talking June of 28 for the completion of the project. So we're hoping that we can do that and then bid it out. I'm thinking now we're looking at a May bid date on this, just simply because once we get the stormwater report submitted to DEP, it is several months before they'll review it. Now, we've had meetings with DEP. They know what it is we're trying to do. That should help us out somewhat, but if they're, if our report's on the bottom of 17 reports, it doesn't matter how familiar they are with it. They're not getting to it for a while.
It's good to know.
But
Can
we're
we
still
ask
moving.
Paul Takak to help us with that?
I'm not sure there's much you can do with environmental to speed it up, other than what we've been trying to do is keep DEP informed of the project, so that when they do get it, they do start looking at it, they know what it is we're up to, so.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dawn.
So it's not really, it was trees and bats.
Well, the bats are.
In the trees.
they're because
I know,
of the
I
tree.
know, but it's the bats behind the trees that
Yeah.
we're thinking about, so that's good to know too, thank you.
So actually, the next item, I'm going to ask Mike to comment on. We did take the ad hoc renovation team on a field trip yesterday. So Amy and Mike and Rich and I did go down to Norristown, Pennsylvania to meet with our architects. And just, if you wouldn't mind, just a quick summary, Mike,
Sure,
of what's
sure.
going on there.
Yeah, so yesterday was our road trip, thanks to Rich for being our faithful driver and taking us there. So we had an opportunity to not only meet with Kimmel, but also with Corbett Incorporated, which is a furniture vendor that they utilize. It was actually a very interesting opportunity. They kind of walked us through their philosophy on renovating facilities and how they select furniture and lighting and all kinds of things. There's, you know, a pure philosophy behind it. But we had the opportunity to take a look at a lot of the finishes that would be proposed for the building. They even did a mock-up of a cubicle for us, so we could sit and feel, understand how this may look for the employees moving forward. Very, very pleased at this point, not only with Kimmel, but also with Corbett and the selections that they have made that we have been agreeing to. We all recognize that the coming project's going to be complicated, and it's going to be stressful to get through, but seeing what the end product may look like on the back end provides an awful lot of promise. I think you're going to have a facility to be really proud of. It'll be a showpiece here. Not saying we're being extravagant in expenditures, because they are doing things that are quite interesting. The one takeaway that I loved was in the lobby area. One of the concerns we have now and into the future is just the reverberation of sound. And you recall I sent out renderings previously. They've provided updated renderings, but there was like a wood slat panel along the roof there, and you know, the concerns were all these hard surfaces. You're going to have this sound bouncing around. Well, the product that they were showing us yesterday it looks like wood, but it's actually foam panels that are sound absorbent. Wow. So it was very interesting and a great opportunity. Where we're at and where Kimmel's at is here by the end of the week, early next week. We should be pretty close to the 100% drawings for the building. What we're going to do, and it was a recommendation that came out of this committee, I think Rich, you were the lead on that. Once they have that 100% drawing, we're going to run it through code just to make sure that there's no immediate red flags in anything that's being proposed. But once that's done, we'll be working to finalize the bid package. And right now, my best guess is, you know, I'm being conservative, thinking it takes maybe another month to get through that review process. We're looking at potentially an October bid, which would be most likely a November bid award, and we could be underway here before the end of the year.
Nice.
Great, thanks, Mike. Moving on, Shiloh Road Corridor. Lots of things going on with Shiloh Road Corridor, some of which are not as positive as the renovation update. We're working with PennDOT right now, and we're trying to marry the partnership process and the PennDOT process. And we're running into some difficulties with that, primarily with the Phase 1 portion of the overall corridor project, Phase 1 being the East Trout Road or the Maxwell intersection portion of this. Maxwell is ready to go, has been I don't want to say pressing, but has been pressing to get the bid out onto the street, to get certain work completed yet this year. Because of the type of funding that we have received, some of that funding is in place and some of it is not. And that is providing some complications to our ability to actually put a bid out on the street and to award anytime soon. Now, we're working through that, and we're also working directly with Delta Development on this process. So it kind of is up in the air a little bit at this point. Remains to be seen whether or not we will be able to get a bid out this year. Regardless of that, we believe that we could get a bid out early enough in 2027, if it comes to it, that we can complete all the work that needs to be completed in a time frame that does not disenfranchise or disadvantage, I should say, the developer of the hotel, Maxwell in this particular case. So we've hit a couple of bumps in the road. We're trying to work through that. More to come, but the project is still moving forward. We're still paying reimbursement invoices out of the funds that we've received from the 4 individual private property owners. So we're managing that process, I think, very well at this point. It's just, this was a little unexpected, but I have to admit, not entirely surprising. So we'll continue to keep you updated.
I have just a quick question.
Yeah.
You mentioned we have some trouble with the funding. Is that coming from the PennDOT side or from the Shiloh Road Partnership side?
Oh, no, the partnership has all, have completely met their financial obligations. There's over, we had over $2 million provided by the partnership once the agreement was executed. We have that, it's escrowed, it is here in our possession. And we are controlling those payments that come out of that.
So that's made this possible to keep moving it forward.
So we've been able to keep things moving forward to this point. This, quite frankly, has become a timing issue. There was a notice of award, a letter of award that we received back in February for the TIF grant. That TIF money has to be put into the
Transportation Improvement Program.
Right, which doesn't happen until
October.
And so that has clearly complicated how we're moving through the project. So actually, all the funding has worked out very well. This is now literally a timing and sequencing kind of an issue that we're trying to overcome. But I'm certainly optimistic at this point that this will get worked out and we'll be able to do and meet all the obligations that we have, and that the project as a whole will be completed in an orderly fashion.
Just to add on to what Adam shared, and I've already shared this with council, but in that vein, we did also just receive an additional multimodal transportation fund grant award towards Shiloh Road of $925,000 from PennDOT. And absolutely, he framed it up very well. It's a timing thing. Getting the grant agreements, getting the programs, the projects money funded through the Transportation Improvement Program is essential for the TIF grant, and getting the grant agreements executed and in place. There's legal review from the state level to work through yet. It's strictly just walking through that process. It's becoming a time issue for us.
I signed it yesterday.
One final thing, I'm going to ask Amy to comment a little bit more on this, but you may have been aware that there was a fire on Matilda Avenue in College Township within the last week to 10 days. And Amy, if you wouldn't mind,
No, not at all.
I'd like to give you a little bit of the glory
No,
here.
it's not me at all. No, the two of my crew were actually up in Mountainside Park doing some of their vegetation spraying and noticed smoke coming from a house. So they dropped their gear and ran down to investigate, and they found lawnmower, riding lawnmower next to the garage side of the house had caught fire and was, actually starting to engulf the wall of the garage. So one guy quickly called 911, the other guy found a garden hose and just started to put it out, and actually mostly I think it was out by the time the fire trucks arrived.
That's awesome.
So really did, I mean, it wasn't the house proper itself, but still, had they not done what they done, it could have easily engulfed a lot of, if not all of the house.
That's excellent.
Wow.
So that was Hunter Sharver
Hunter Sharp.
and Greg Gummo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
it,
great. Well,
we,
Sure, the homeowners are very appreciative.
it was nice that, yeah, I mean, not nice that the fire started.
They were
It
quick
was,
to-
it was nice that, that they were able to be as responsive
And willing to,
Yeah,
just
willing,
turning the
yeah.
phone
yeah,
off.
exactly.
Just, not
They're
my
well,
problem.
they dropped everything and just
Yeah.
went to go find it out, so.
So it may be a situation where we may want to
Thank you.
identify an appropriate recognition for
Yeah,
them of some
absolutely.
type
Yeah.
going
If Steph has a
forward.
recommendation, that would be super helpful.
Sure, yeah, we can talk about
That
that.
would be great.
All right, great, thank
Okay,
you.
please
And that
thank the mayor.
concludes, well, my report.
All right. Okay, next up, we have COG Regional County and Liaison Reports. Gretchen, do you have any reports?
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Tracy?
No, we didn't.
Okay, Mr. Rich?
Yes. I've had so much quality township time the past couple weeks. The finance committee COG Finance Committee met on August 13th. I think the chair will probably speak to the one item with regard to the fire engine. I will bring out the finance side of those two. One being that it was the replacement of the engine. In our budget, we had $50,000 for the sale of the current engine, and we'll be receiving less, but there's benefits to that again, the chair will speak to. But one of the interesting things, even though we did those benefits, staff came up with what I thought was an excellent clause in there that should the receiving entity sell that for more than we sold it to them for, that we would get after adjusting for any repairs that they had to do, because the current engine, they're looking at about $10,000 to $15,000 worth of engine repairs that need done, but that the COG would get that back, would get I call it a clawback of any profit from our good deed of selling it at a lower rate. So I thought that was a really good one. We reviewed our budget progress. Just if you were tracking, there's 19 days until the first budget review session. So I'll be spending more quality time with the township. Under matters of record, an important one, we discussed that there was a sales tax issue in our parks concession. We've now officially gotten written notice that the Department of Revenue has abated over $20,000 in penalties that it was potentially subject to, and everything's in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Another item to make aware, and this probably impacts our township as well, in 2026, because of timing with biweekly pay and when money has to come out of the account and everything, there will actually be 27 pay periods in 2026 as opposed to a normal 26 for a biweekly pay. That was not accounted for in the budget. It's just a timing and a cash flow item, but it will show up in the final financials and everything. It'll be recouped in 27, but it will make the budget potentially look, the final 2026 numbers look a little funny, since payroll is such a huge part of the COG budget. I believe that is all I wanted to draw your attention to. And I will, if nothing on finance, I will say that we had a joint Parks Capital and Parks Authority meeting today at Millbrook Marsh, which was very nice. We received the a presentation on the survey of Millbrook Marsh. There was over 700 respondents to that, which as a number for that type of survey is very good. However, when you look at it as population of the center region, it's less than 1% and everything. But it is a valuable tool. Should the COG go forward looking for grants, they need that kind of stuff to document and show and everything. And it also helps us decision makers see where the priorities of our residents are and everything. We also got a glance. They got a glance, I got a second glance at the parks budget stuff and everything. No real, I think one member put it, we're in major projects fatigue in the parks program after, getting Whitehall. So, but it's not done. We're looking at Millbrook, we're looking at Hess, we're looking at, restrooms at Hess, pavilion at Whitehall. There's still stuff coming even if you're not looking for it, so. But mostly just planning for those in 27 at this point. So other than that, it was a nice little meeting.
I have a quick question for Rich.
Please.
So did the test of the trailer, the really nice porta potties that are trailers, did that happen this summer? And what was the feedback?
Was it this summer or last summer? I don't remember.
Or was it
good-
last summer?
It was good feedback and it is on the table.
Okay.
It is definitely on the table.
Those are the
Nice.
Hess Field toilets, right?
Correct, like as an interim step.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty unanimous that ultimately we want fixed facilities with sewer service. There isn't sewer service there now and everything, but
But people were impressed with the trailers?
Yeah,
I thought they would be.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're nice.
well, it's a lot better than the blue houses. but,
Absolutely.
But yeah, but yeah, and it's a great interim step. I think it's a great interim step, so. If you weren't aware the lights are coming down at Hess, they're a liability, so they're coming down. So we will have no fields that have lights anymore.
So no night games.
Right.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. I suspect that may trigger a discussion about Oak Hall. There was a discussion about phase 2 at Oak Hall, but again, parks fatigue. It's
Good to know that.
it's real.
If there's no fields with lights now, then I think the school district will probably get more requests.
Probably.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have to add, yes, was the public safety. We had one of the shortest public safety meetings we've ever had, because the only item we really discussed was the sale of engine 5.3. And that was valued at a $50,000 sale if it were brokered out. And Spring Township is agreed, or would like to have an intergovernmental agreement with the COG, and then purchase that engine for the Pleasant Gap Fire Company at $25,000 with anticipated repairs about $10,000 to $15,000. And you're right, staff had come up with a good way to protect any potential revenue we could have had from a sale in the future. And the committee discussed that. Some people were concerned about bringing this in at less than the value at $50,000, selling for $25,000, but the majority of the committee felt strongly that Pleasant Gap provides mutual aid. They were here on site for the fraternity fire, and that, as good neighbors, we needed to show that and help facilitate the sale. So that'll come up in the general forum, but there was unanimity finally at the public safety meeting for that sale to Spring Township, and then ultimately to be used by Pleasant Gap. That's what I got. Oh, I did go, I think I already told you guys, but I did go to a business opening in College Township, if I may, and that is Mini Figs and Brick. It is the Lego store that's up over by Ross. And Zach Barlow has opened the business, and he and all of the people there were shocked. The line stretched from almost right next to Ross's all the way down to the end of the shopping center. Families, kids, adults, they had to let people in blocks because, you know, they were counting the number of people that were allowed in the building. Mark, they really did a great job. It was such an exciting opening, and I just
that's
kept
so
thinking
cool.
that, you know, this is so much what we want in the Dale Summit. So I just wanted to make sure we shouted them out again.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
Madam
and
Chair.
they welcome all of us.
Just one follow-up
Yeah.
to your public safety. You may not be aware, but Pleasant Gap had a fire in their one.
Yes, they did. I'm
Their
sorry.
rescue truck, and that's why this is especially important. Lead times on fire trucks are a year and a half plus, and so they're they don't have an apparatus. So the immediacy of it and then the mutual benefit
Well, it's going
definitely
to
factor.
take a while because the fire protection program has taken a few pieces off the engine, and also there's a leaky engine, it's leaking oil, and there's some rust, so they won't be able to put it into use immediately, but.
But
yeah.
a lot faster than
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get a new truck.
Yep.
And the other side of that is that the Pleasant Gap Fire Company's insurance company did not total the truck, so it has to be repaired. So it's being sent to Wisconsin to be repaired, and then we'll need to come back.
gonna be
They're looking at a year and a half, 2-year process to get that truck back. So even if it takes 3 months to get the Alpha engine up to snuff, they're ahead.
This is good mutual aid.
Yes.
This is really good mutual aid. Next item up are the staff PC and other committee reports. Matt did report out that Planning Commission did not meet earlier this week, and he himself is recovering well from an ankle injury, so that was also good news. And that was the PC. Are there any other staff or committee reports? Okay, that brings us up to the DEIB report. Mike?
Nothing new beyond the report at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, our next item up is the consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we had some late addition. We have CA 1, the minutes, the approval of the August 6, 2026 regular meeting minutes. We have CA2 correspondence. We have a letter from Stahl Schaefer Engineering dated August 12, 2026 regarding the time extension for the PAM Health Land Development Plan to December 1st, 2026. We have an email from Andrew Schaefer dated August 18th, 2026 regarding the CATA bus stop at the casino. And we also have under CA-3 the appointment of Caleb Rabarchuk to the College Township Parks and Recreation Committee. And item B is Resolution R-26-23, the Shiloh Road Grant Reimbursement Agreement. Do any members of council wish to pull any of the consent agenda items before we approve the consent agenda? Okay. I would like to pull CA2B, the email from Andrew Schaefer, and also I would like to open the discussion, Adam, if you don't mind. You had some information to share with council. It came in earlier today, so.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Madam Chair. I did, I'm sorry.
I need to take a motion to.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Minus those.
I was just about to say that I did have the opportunity to meet earlier today as part of a regional manager group. I had the opportunity to meet with CATA staff today and CATA management. And one of the things that I learned there in terms of the closure of the bus stop, the one bus stop at the Nittany Mall, that's actually a relocation of an existing bus stop. There's presently 2 bus stops that occur at the Nittany Mall. One is at the main entrance to the mall, which is on the Benner Pike side, and the other had been at the end of the mall on the Rural King side. And basically, CATA had identified the fact that there was exceptionally low utilization of the stop that was on the Rural King side. And so what they did and are doing as a pilot project is relocating that particular stop to the other end of the mall, which is the casino end of the mall. Now, that stop will actually be on the Mount Nittany side of the mall. Okay, but the original main entrance stop will continue to be in place. So there will be two stops at the Nittany Mall. One will be at the main entrance as has been, and then the other will be the relocated from the one end to the other, which will be in the vicinity of the casino. So that was very useful information, and in fact, we were provided with a timetable as well, and it's very clearly indicated that there are the two stops at the mall. So this was not a situation where the stop was eliminated or substituted, I should say, but it was simply their operational decision. And again, I think it's on a pilot basis as well, to see if they could generate some additional ridership to or from the mall simply by switching the ends at which it was serving. So that's the information that I had that I thought would be important for council to hear relative to the correspondence received.
Are there any questions, any other concerns? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, then, I would accept a motion to accept the consent agenda with item CA to B moved. I think that's what we do.
Yeah, the consent agenda, yeah.
Okay,
So moved.
And yeah, we could have a motion and a second, and then if you wanted to open it up for any other discussion.
okay,
I'll second.
okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? No? So are there any further, I guess the question I'm asking, is there any further discussion on CA2B? All right. Do we need to take a motion on approving CA2B?
I think
We did.
we didn't exclude it, so therefore.
Right.
Okay.
You were good.
Great. So I think we're moving on. All right, thank you. Our next item up on the agenda is old business, OB1. This is the Oak Hall Equestrian Facility Plan. Mike, you're going to give us an update on that, and this is an informational item only tonight.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So as you'll recall, at your last meeting, council reviewed and conditionally approved preliminary final land development plan for the Oak Hall Equestrian Facility at 1040 Bowlesburg Road. As part of that discussion, council denied a request for a sidewalk waiver, and we're looking towards potentially a fee in lieu or construction of a sidewalk. Following that meeting, the landowner and their agent did ultimately reach back out to township staff, initially requesting revisiting that decision on the sidewalk waiver, but then it grew in terms of a discussion of, was a land development plan actually required for this proposed facility? The owner noted a couple important elements. This is an accessory building to an existing farm and farmhouse located in the agricultural district and intended for personal use with no boarding, commercial, or public operation. And then they pointed to section 503 1.1 of the municipality's planning code. And it's important to note that there is a definition difference between what the MPC says in terms of accessory buildings, particularly for ag uses, versus what our ordinance implies. So in that recognition, staff ultimately ran this back through the township solicitor for an opinion. And in his review, he came back and said, in this instance, the MPC trumps our ordinance, and that allows the property owner the right to handle this land development essentially under a zoning permit as opposed to a true land development. If they choose to do so, which the expectation is that the land owner will do that, then they will formally withdraw the land development plan that has been acted upon and then pursue this through a zoning permit. What that does is ultimately it walks around the sidewalk discussion and the fee in lieu. So that said, the project's still applicable to the township zoning and stormwater requirements. That was really one of the things that triggered the look at land development was the stormwater element. But we felt it important to bring this back to you. Now that we have a solicitor's opinion, it was included here, as well as the original request from the developer's agent that kind of started this discussion. We felt it was important to bring this back to council that you understood what was happening with this. It moves it out of a council decision and more into a pure zoning permit, which falls under Mark's purview as the zoning officer. So again, they have the right to go ahead and withdraw that land development plan. It's the expectation that they will. And then they will pursue this through a zoning permit. But the fee in lieu discussion, ultimately, if they do go down that route, will be excluded, and it'll just be handled as a zoning permit.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mike?
No.
Please.
Are we going to see a potential future ordinance tweak to align MPC and the ordinance?
I think it's important that we as staff go back and take a look, just to make sure there's not any glaring loopholes in our ordinance versus the MPC. One of the things that we've already talked about at a staff level is this is a very specific instance, but it's worth that analysis just to make sure that we don't have something in there that's, could be a problem in the future.
Well, the agent apparently didn't catch that initially.
Well, as I recollect, there was a good deal of debate internally when this plan came through about whether or not to put it through as a permit or to do land development.
Okay.
And after we went around a little bit from staff that's involved, we determined that it should be a land development. And I don't think that was the wrong decision. I think that it probably could have gone either way, and I think that the solicitor's opinion upholds that thought. But it is absolutely, as Mike said, we need to go back and review to make sure that this isn't something that is going to be consistently a barrier to the way that we implement the ordinance.
We got to the right decision.
We got to where we needed to be.
Right. Thank you.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? Gretchen?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business. ND1 is a draft administrative policy. This is an information item, and this is regarding the roles and responsibilities of council chair. Adam?
Yes. I want to make this very clear right from the start that this is one of my hanging chads from evaluations of years gone by that has managed to remain on my to-do list for a number of years now. But at the time that this request first came forward, the suggestion from council first came forward through my evaluation, was to develop a set of kind of standard rules, operating procedures, if you will, for whoever happens to be the council chair. And so that is the genesis of this document. It has absolutely nothing to do with those that have come before, those that are currently in, or those that are to come. It is essentially a response to an item that has kind of been lingering. And I had the opportunity about 2 weeks ago I found some time where I was able to work on this particular element. So what you have in front of you really is, it's a draft policy, policy A-016, that talks about the duties and responsibilities of the council chair. And I will only read the intent. The purpose of the policy is to establish the role, responsibilities, and limitations of the chair of council, and to promote ethical, effective, transparent, and professional governance. The chair shall exercise the office in a manner consistent with the principles of ethical public service, integrity, service to the entire community, respect for democratic accountability, and professional municipal management. The chair shall lead the council as a collective governing body, facilitate informed and respectful decision-making, and support the effective implementation of council policy through the manager and municipal administration. And everything that follows that certain governing principles, what the role of the chair is, the presiding responsibilities, collective governance, and the relationship with the chair and the manager, the relationship between the chair and municipal employees. And then there's a section here that talks about public trust and ethical conduct, the representation, how the chair may represent the council in various settings, council communications, how to provide for or to accommodate disagreement and dissent, as well as delegation of emergency authority. And of course, as we try to incorporate with all of our policies nowadays, the annual review or the periodic review of the policy. So I would be happy to take council's comments on any or all of these elements and put this in a form and fashion based on those comments so the council might consider adoption at some future meeting.
Thank you. Tracy, any questions or comments for the manager?
No, I didn't expect to go first. No, I don't have any right now.
Well, we can always come around if something comes up, you can always, this isn't like,
Yeah.
you're done, no more, you're done. That would be a violation of some of these codes of conduct. That's it. Rich.
No, it's good. This is about me, isn't it?
It is.
It's always about you. Isn't it always about you?
The only thing I saw in that, and we kind of talked about earlier, regional cooperation is a huge thing for us. So maybe something about the relationship with our peer municipalities, something a little.
The only regional thing that is mentioned is that specifically is the role of the chair on the executive committee to COG.
Yeah, that was actually conflicted a little bit for me because we've actually had years where the College Township chair was not the representative on the COG executive committee. So.
And does that fall under the chair delegating that authority?
Well, it was actually council decided that.
Oh, okay.
Well, they voted in favor.
At the reorg meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I just didn't want to paint us into a corner with that,
Sure.
but just stressing how important it really is for the interaction with our municipal peers. So just probably only one bullet somewhere, and I don't honestly offer where.
Very good, got it.
Gretchen?
So this is interesting. I haven't seen, I guess, something like a policy just pertaining to the role of the chair before. And so when I'm looking through it, one thing that stood out to me is there's at least one, but I think there's a few times, and I can send you an email with specifics, but where it mentions the role of the council members, but the policy at the top is titled Duties and Responsibilities of Council Chair. And so I wonder if we either need another policy for the duties and responsibilities of a council member, or if it's appropriate to have that in here about council members, even though it's titled Council Chair. And then the other thing that popped out to me was, I guess, I didn't see, and I could have missed it, I didn't see anything about agenda setting, placing something on the agenda, and I don't know how formal or informal it is on this council, because I haven't been here all that long, but does the chair have the authority, the power, whatever word you want to use, to put something on the agenda? And then, does it say that? And then, do all council members have that ability, or does it have to be, two members who are not the chair have the power to put something on the agenda. Like, anyway, I was just curious about that. Not, I've not seen this as a problem in any way, shape, or form since I've been here. Like, it seems like if you say to the chair, hey, I'd like to, I can't imagine that was a problem. But if you're putting all this, in the form of a policy, it does, pop up in my mind.
And I think we have to anticipate that that's in part the nature of this council, but in future councils, that could become problematic.
So in response to the agenda item, right at the bottom of, on line 48, there's a statement, the chair may coordinate, it says may, but it's really will, to be honest. Coordinate with the manager, shall coordinate with the manager regarding, and then line 49 is item A, council agendas. Now, this would be a recommendation that I would make. I believe that given the various elements that are discussed here about the council chair, and the fact that the chair has to sometimes put aside personal particular feelings about something or positions about something, that if the chair was in any way, no, let me back that up. If there was one or two members of council that wanted something to be on the agenda, it should go through the chair, and the chair should give that due consideration and make sure that it ends up on the agenda, is the way that I would recommend that. It's really difficult. Well, we offer this now. If there's something that comes up, we have the option right at the beginning of each meeting to add something. So I think that's a real plus. But we're somewhat limited. We're somewhat limited in what we're able to do with that. But it's a plus that we make that option available. But we always have the option to identify a topic to be brought back at a future agenda during that particular time. So I think that is helpful. But if there was something that would occur that needed to be addressed and it happened offline, outside of a meeting, I think the best way would be for members of council to approach the chair and make the request that this be something that is on either the next meeting or a future meeting for consideration and discussion by the entire council. That would be ideal as a manager.
I think we have seen and have heard of other chairs and other boards, councils, where it hasn't worked that well or that collaboratively. I think, we're a collaborative council and we're a respectful council. And that could change with whoever's on the council. So I think I've always seen that new item request as an opportunity both for a member of council to bring it forward, but also members of council to speak to that item, and say, so that gives us some degree of consensus. And you said it before, transparency, and I think that's very important. So, yeah, and I think, yes, at least for now, and I think every chair has had a different process, but the chair before me had a process of meeting with the manager and the assistant manager, and also in correspondence, always copying the vice chair. So there's a lot of, sort of open communication. And I think, chairs will make that decision to how they work collaboratively with the manager. But it's a good point about the agenda.
I had one thing to say, but I think Rich does too.
No, to that point, I was just going to say, I think the new agenda item provides a safety net so that stuff can't be squashed.
Right.
If you get a consensus of council that it should be on a future agenda and everything, and that leads to an alibi that I have for a potential addition after, different than this.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is that, and I'd have to read exactly how it's worded in line 48 and 49, but, that it says explicitly the power, or the chair has the power to set the agenda, and the chair has the obligation and duty and responsibility to meet with the manager to establish the agenda, but giving that power, in the policy so that it's written, and then And then my recommendation after living through what I've lived through, because you could live through nice,
Oh,
jolly
yes.
flowers and butterflies, councils like this, and then, you know, like Susan
it
said,
butterflies?
sometimes not. And if it's not, then it is important to have the ability for a minority of the council, which would be 2, because 3 would be a majority. So it doesn't have to be a majority, but if a minority, but not just one person, wants to put something on the agenda, then it goes on the agenda even if the chair doesn't want it on the agenda. And the reason is because then if you have a chair that is, you know, not working well with the manager, then you still have the ability for the chair to put something on the agenda that the manager doesn't want. And then also if you have a minority, in our case it would be 205, that would have the ability to put something on the agenda that the chair doesn't want on the agenda, or that the chair and the manager don't want on the agenda. So anyway, that would be my recommendation.
I'll wait for my alibi.
Oh.
It's not critical.
Did you have something else, Tracy? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, okay. So I think kind of talking around all that, in the intent, one of the things, and I think you actually said it earlier, you know, is the chair is only one vote. Is one member, one vote, but they have these additional duties, and I think maybe in the intent, indicating that the chair is still under that auspice, that they're one member and one vote.
Yep.
I think would be beneficial. It sets the true stage, because
We heard
as you
it, though.
said, some chairs dictate what does and doesn't happen at a meeting, and it gets ugly.
And we've heard it said, you know, the chair is the first among equals, and it seems that the chair is the first to assume more of the responsibilities and duties of keeping the council, the meetings open, discussion open, respectful, those kinds of things. So, you know, at least I see it as emphasizing the duties.
Yeah, and if you put it, you know, written in the policy, since we're writing the policy right now, then it's really just part of the democratic process, because you're weaving the democracy into the policy, and the policy then will dictate what the members of the council can and cannot do. And it's just math, right? Like 2 people can put something on the agenda, and the chair can put something on the agenda. And it just,
So that's almost, it sounds like more council operations or
Well-
procedures than,
Well, here's the
and
thing.
maybe we need-
I mean, what I'm, and to Gretchen's earlier point that she made, you know, I will say, or I would argue, that virtually everything that is in here as pertains to the chair, except for the specific duties of the chair, pertain to council as well, and to the manager, right? I mean, you know,
A lot of it, yeah.
we should all, you know, there are these governing principles, right? Serve the best interests of the community, promote public trust, conduct official business with integrity, et cetera, et cetera. Those are kind of, I would suggest, universal for,
Those are the underlying principles.
those are the fundamentals, right? So it
or
led
is it
me.
like the board protocol?
Yeah, and so it led me to think about this. Is this solely a duties and responsibilities of the chair policy, or is it a duties and responsibilities of College Township Council, and provide for a section of the, you know, for the chair, and provide for the ability for 2 or more individuals of council can, I don't want to say force, but force an issue onto the agenda that might not otherwise get there, kind of a thing, in normal course of business. So there's a couple different ways, I guess, that we could go with this. If it was important to simply keep a duties and responsibilities for the chair, we could do that, but we could also in referencing that, we could also establish another duties and responsibilities of council as well, or we could somehow combine those. Not trying to make it more difficult.
No,
but-
no. I would say, as thinking about that, it would be nice to have just like the duties of council and then have subcategory, the duties of the elected chair and even the vice chair. Just so that it's in one place and people know what they're responsible for. And then they can't say, no, I didn't know.
Okay.
Not that we wouldn't. I mean, it's a good board. I'm not saying it's a bad board or anything.
No, but these kind of things are to protect when you don't have a good board.
Yeah. And I would, then they know, in the absence of the chair, this is what the vice chair does, you know. So it would be nice just the policy in general and then the subcategories, just thinking of a legal document.
And another, if we're going to do both, another question that has popped up in my mind is communications, because is that just the role of the chair?
Right.
And the rest of us shouldn't really respond when we get questions from the
that's-
media? Or do we want to write it down in the policy? Do we want to avoid it in the policy?
Right.
I don't know. And the reason I keep honing in on the agenda setting is because other than running the meetings, setting the agenda is one of the actual real powers that
Of the chair.
the chair has. And so I think that's why I think it's important to point it out. But yeah, obviously, that's what I thought. When I read it, I was like, wait a minute, is this for the council members or just
Right.
the chair?
Yep.
Do we want one? And I mean, you're asking the same questions, but I guess, I think that it would be roles and responsibilities of the chair and roles and responsibilities of a council member. And whether that's one policy or two, I don't think is all that significant, but to lay it out, very clearly for both, I think would be helpful in case there were ever a board that weren't as friendly as us.
You bring up a great point, and I hearken myself to my bylaws that I operate on my day job. And it identifies, everybody, the board of directors, the chair of the board of directors, the vice chair, the treasurer, all that kind of stuff. It breaks down the duties from there and everything. So it's almost like a de facto bylaws for the, but we don't want to get too much into the, paint ourselves into a corner.
Right.
More conceptually.
Let me take another crack at this. And I think what I want to see how it comes out in the wash, if you will. But I want to see what the all combined looks like, and being able to break that down and into a singular policy. And hopefully it doesn't add more than maybe another page to this. Although it could, but regardless, I just hearing the comments tonight, I think they're all excellent comments. And let me give it a little bit of thought before, so there'll be another opportunity to review another draft at some point here in the future. But
Great start, though.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think it's an excellent
absolutely,
start.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
good.
thanks.
Yeah.
That's great.
I would just offer too is, I like the idea of the combined. It basically then serves as a Cliff Notes orientation element
onboarding.
too.
For onboarding.
Yeah, when you have a new elected official, we could hand them the policy, and here's the actual adopted policy associated with the roles and responsibilities of individual council members and those officers within the council. So I think the combined makes a lot of sense. It's good discussion, good comments.
Great. Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll see you again.
Yes, you will.
NB2, the Community Funding Support Program concept. This is you, Mike.
Sure. So this one's been one we've talked a little bit about. Before the CIP, it was included as part of the appendices of the CIP, and it's a recognition of an ongoing identified need. So as you're aware, on an annual basis, council receives numerous requests for financial support from a variety of community services and events that fall outside of our normal budget cycle. And while council has historically made those on a case-by-case basis, there was an expressed interest to find a way to more formalize and substantiate the approach to making those decisions. So what's presented to you tonight is just a concept, and I'm just seeking feedback on the concept of a community funding support program. This utilizes a 25-point scale to evaluate requests based on their merit against the following 5 criteria. And we tried to tie these back to the missions and values statements that council has adopted over the years. Community benefit, community participation, alignment with our values and priorities, organizational need, and the role of stewardship of township funds. And again, the intent is to provide a fair, transparent, and consistent method for evaluating funding requests that will assist with your decision-making. It's an evaluation tool. It ultimately is not intended to limit your discretion in considering unique circumstances or needs, but again, trying to find a way to formalize and walk through those processes so that when we get these requests, we can come back to you, much like the sidewalks with the matrix with those, come back to you and say, well, this is a 25 grand slam home run, this is one you should fund, or this is a 5, 6, that it's, while not saying it's not worth it, it's probably a lower priority for you. So just ultimately looking for your feedback. This is a work in progress, but the program kind of spells out eligibility and what would be required. The matrix, again, each of these is scored on a 5-point scale, so try to keep it simple. The scoring criteria is then broken down by each of those individual categories, and it also provides a recommendation guide in terms of kind of the tiers of funding requests. So ultimately, interested to hear your thoughts on this, and we'll kind of go from there and evaluate and rebuild as we need to.
I think the rhetorical oracle would love a matrix. And so we'll put there. It reminds me of the sidewalk waiver, which I think we've used pretty successfully and stuff. In that vein, who's doing the matrix? And I would suggest,
It's not us.
yeah, I would suggest that the initial draft, similar to the sidewalk waiver, would be completed by staff, who does the budgets and is aware of the vision and everything that we've set out. And I just think it's more productive than potentially 5, and then we review that document together and provide consensus agreement or whatever, and everything. But conceptually, absolutely like it, because it'll get totally out of control if you don't have criteria and everything.
One comment real quick. Sorry. May I?
Sure.
You may.
As long as staff doesn't get put into the position of making a final determination.
No.
And
No.
I understand that. I just,
Absolutely not, yeah.
I just wanted to be sure that that was well understood.
Yeah, if you want the first line to say, it is council's ultimate.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I think it's, Tracy.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add would be like a report out. I don't know how else to say it, but like just like how the funds was used later and like what they were able to do with it. It would be nice just for us to know and feel like we're making the right decision. So if some of these other things come up, it's something we can compare it to. Just data based, but that's all I have.
Yeah.
Gretchen.
Yeah, so I think it's really good. And I think that it's going to be very good for the future in making these decisions instead of just, thinking on our feet. One, I guess, I need to think more about this, but I feel like the allocation of these funds is really the job of the council. And I don't know that I agree that it's appropriate for staff to make any kind of scoring on the matrix or recommendations. Like, I really think that, the community elected the council members. This is the money coming from the taxpayers and the community. And it's really the job of the elected council members to make these kinds of decisions. To me, this seems like a clear community direct from, the electoral connection. Like, I see it very clearly. So that's one thought I had. Basically the grant report idea, that's interesting. I mean, I wonder if maybe that could be something that if somebody were reapplying, they could show what they've done, or the organization could show what they did with, something like that. That could be interesting. So I think that's a creative idea. The one thing that I don't see in here, so it could be in here and I don't see it, but one of the main reasons I thought we were thinking about this is because if we have a deadline, right,
Yeah.
once a year, then we can look at all of them at the same time and also incorporate that into the budget so that it would just be much more systematic. And that way, you don't give away like all of the finances that are allocated for this within the first 7 months. And then if you have bad timing because your organization happened to apply it, in whatever month we've already, allocated everything. So yeah, a deadline that's once a year, I think would make it even more fair. And I think it would also help the organizations who are applying because they can just put it in their planning as well. So that's my feedback. But I think it's really good and thorough, and the scoring just looks very simple and fair and transparent. And it'll help them if they can see this beforehand. I'm assuming this will be a public document.
Yeah.
And so that would be very helpful to them as well.
Yeah, you can point them right to it.
Yep.
This is what you got to do.
I do like the idea of the matrix, like the sidewalk. I do like the idea that staff would do the preliminary evaluation and give a recommendation, but the recommendation is simply that, and it makes it more efficient in terms of council decision-making to have something to start with as a recommendation, but then to move from there if we see something that we feel strongly needs to be adjusted. But I know that the experience that we've had, at least the few years I've been on council, is that we get random requests at different meetings, and they're for different amounts. They come in sometimes at the time of the presentation, sometimes before, sometimes after. So the process of doing this is important. The other piece is I know that we budget for a certain amount of money each year for community good. And I'm never aware of what that amount is and how much we've drawn that down as we've provided grants. So that's something that touches on what you're saying, Gretchen, that we would almost become a granting agency. We have a submission deadline once a year, and we're going to award these things, which is different than the process we do now, which is take those requests as they come in. I'm not quite sure I know how to resolve that. Your recommendation was do it once a year, and we become a granting organization. And then we have granting report outs to see the value of what we've invested in terms of. So the only question I would have is how much flexibility does that allow council to make decisions that might need to be made in the course of a year? Do we still have that purview, or have we locked ourselves into something that limits us to one way of doing things?
And I will just opine, that was the challenge, and why
Right.
in the perfect world, yes, I love what Gretchen had suggested, because it simplifies and streamlines
Right.
the process. So if you want to go that route, I would support it. But there are those random
Right.
requests that come in throughout the year. It helps us from a staff perspective to budget it and know what that process looks like, and it's a little more rigid in terms of how you
Right.
walk through that. And it would just be an education process, I think, to the community. But to your point, we do get these one-off random requests that pop up from time to time, and some of them are high value, some of them are mixed value. So this is kind of an evaluation piece. That's a process element that I think would be an important discussion as well as this. So I'm open to either one. I just recognize right now, the nature is they just drop in out of the sky, so.
Well, and I want to open it up for Tracy. She has a comment.
I think he had one to.
No, I have alibis to,
Okay.
great discussion.
Right.
Great,
Oh.
what you originally, all of
But
it.
you had something you wanted to
Yeah,
say.
right, and, well, thinking of that they come in randomly, if we could do both, having the deadline and then do an exception, like, for an exception, this is the criteria, maybe you have to meet as well. Like, and if it doesn't trip that threshold, then you just have to wait till the next cycle. I mean, that could be an addendum to not blocking us in, but we have some flexibility, but we still decide if that is worth us doing that exception. So that's just a suggestion in addition to, we could put that in place. Yeah, that's all I got.
No, that's great. So to yours, the feedback, if you want our money, this is the requirement. The
Yes.
requirement is for the feedback. We're asking for the feedback as part of the award.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you don't do it, guess what? You're probably not going to see any money
Right.
again in the future, kind of thing. So I think there's a way to incorporate that. And you triggered something for me that our managers use as a tool is that, we get advertisers all the time and everything. And we have a deadline, we have a date for it to be considered to be in the budget. And so it's empowering to the staff that, yeah, sorry, you missed the date and
Yeah.
everything. So, but to your point, and I did think of that, there's always a compelling argument.
Yep.
Somebody can come to that lectern and
Yeah.
make that compelling argument, and we have the means, we're the council, to do that. But it'd have to be a compelling argument.
Yes.
So, but then it could be considered. The only other thing, I would suggest that staff do the matrix, but do not make a recommendation.
Fill it in, like with the information.
Exactly,
Yeah.
this is our,
Wouldn't it inevitably have a recommendation because it's a point system?
It is. But to the point, again, we're not delegating this to staff.
Staff, right.
That's,
We are asking for staff's assistance in this and stuff, but I don't even want a recommendation from them. It's ultimately council's, to exactly what you said, it's council's decision on this
Yeah.
and stuff. And if we could make ourselves more efficient by having a cutoff, and then as part of the budget review cycle, do this, I think it's beneficial to staff and us.
And we've had the experience.
But there's
where-
always timing. There's always potential timing and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
again, they have the opportunity to come and speak to council, and we've shown that we will do stuff.
And we've had the experience that we've had those requests and, we're having the conversation, how much? Did we do 2,500 last year? Should we do 500? Is
Yeah.
this something we should do? Is it in the township? Is it not in the township? Is it worth? So, yeah, I agree with the idea of the matrix with the numeric scoring, and then we take that and we go from there. And we might disagree, I might say, no, I think that the 4 there doesn't make sense, but that becomes council's discussion.
Yes.
So,
I had one more thing when you're. Sure. You're okay?
I know.
Another idea that stems from Tracy's contribution about a grant report. It would be pretty neat if they would come and give us a little presentation about what they did with the funds. And the reason is because, again, it increases transparency because these are taxpayer dollars, and it would increase communication, which is something that we've talked about that we want to increase and do better with. And then the whole community would be able to see what good the township is contributing to, and it would also give them
An opportunity for visibility.
media coverage.
Yeah, opportunity for visibility. Yep.
Right, right.
For an opportunity for visibility. That's a good way to put it. So, and it wouldn't have to be, we wouldn't have to allocate, half a meeting to this, but but if they got, a few minutes. Yeah, so that was another idea. And I have to give Amber Concepcion credit to the original idea of the deadline, because she and I were hiking and she told me about that. She said, once we switched to having a deadline at the county level, everything got simpler, everything got more fair, it got easier for staff, it got easier for applicants. So that's where the idea came from, is that I knew that things, got much better at the county level.
One wrinkle I would throw out there, because I know I'm looking across the table and I see Adam still uncomfortable with staff. At least I'm thinking that he is. By having it one time a year, and I'll just throw this out as an option, individual council members could do the rankings and staff could compile them and bring them to you with a matrix of, here's your prioritized score. And that comes from years of doing long-range transportation plan scoring. We assigned a committee of the MPO to do that. Now, staff was part of that, but not that way, not one individual's thought process dictated. You kind of average the scores and, okay, here's the 1 through 10 list of your funding priorities. That allows council the opportunity to evaluate these on an individual case-by-case basis, and then you get a cumulative score compiled by staff from your individual rankings to consider at a meeting. That's the benefit of a one-time process, is it's, okay, we received 15 requests, here they are, evaluate them on your own, send me your scores, I'll put it into a summary, and then we'll give you a compiled list. That's another way to look at this.
I love that idea.
As a survivor of the manager evaluation process for so freaking long where that has been attempted.
True.
Right.
The summary, why don't you just take the hard stuff? It's like, we can summarize it. That's not the thing. We need you looking at it from a different evaluation side of it. And again, I'm just looking at it purely from an efficiency standpoint.
And I want to jump into, I'm going to give myself that time.
Yeah.
I am with you on this, having gone through the cycle a few times. And my concern is, because we are getting an LSA and it's coming directly, we are getting more requests for funding. This could turn into a very, very, very time-consuming. It could be taking a lot of time from us. I think if that needs to be a consensus, because I am concerned. We have a lot we have to do, and I think we're not necessarily primarily a granting organization. It's a percentage of what we do with the budget, and it could come down to a small percentage. And I'm a little concerned about having literally 50 requests at $250 to $500 that I have to manage those matrix scores on. So that concerns me. How do we modify that a little bit?
I think it increases our involvement with the community, which is one of the things we've decided that we want to do. I don't know. I don't think it takes that long to score the numbers, but that's just me.
To compile the numbers, I agree.
Well, but they're going to compile them. We just have to fill out the.
It's the filling out that historically has taken council a long time.
Is there a way in the application process where the community gets involved, where like we have a description of okay, I'm gonna take a break because my brain's going faster than my mind can speak. And like, if they're filling it out online, like drop down and it says, this is the description, like your points that you have here. I think I put my paper down, okay. So the points are in this section, does it meet this, this, and this, and kind of have
A self-evaluation?
a self-evaluation built into the application process. That eliminates the time that staff would have to put into it. And then there's got to be a feature that's built within there where it can pull all the information in and just spit it out to us, and then we can make it from
We
there.
can just have AI do it.
That just,
I'm
no, we
kidding.
don't want AI to do it. But I'm just saying,
Joke.
there's technology where we can eliminate all this, where you don't have to put it in all the time, we don't have to put it in at a time. And and having the criteria there within the application and they do it. I'm just thinking of ways that we do it within the university as well. So then it takes that, it eliminates that step. Just a thought.
I think staff has a lot of suggestions.
Yeah. Who would have thought this would be
I
a
think
big
what
topic?
it allows you to do at this point is take this back and maybe bring back another draft that would try to incorporate as much as what you've heard tonight for future discussion. And that gives you the opportunity to put it down and then for us to hash it out. So I would suggest take it back and put it under old business when it's ready to come back.
We've got a foundation
As we
to build
get
from.
closer to
Yes.
budget too, as we get closer to budget.
Yes,
You would
sir.
like to speak?
May I please?
You may, you have a limit of.
Or, notwithstanding all this very good conversation, you could set a limit in the budget and do what we have done previously. I don't know of an ask that we have received that we have not agreed to try to fund to some extent. We may not have met the whole ask, but I do not know of one that I can recollect that we have actually turned down to this point.
I think we have a few in the hopper now.
Well, there may be,
Because
and there may
we told a
be.
few groups, hey, we're going to be developing this. We have a couple in the hopper that are still sitting out there.
But one of the ways to do this is not even necessarily having a deadline, but your end-all be-all is whatever that amount is that has been set by council is the amount that has been set by council. And the requests that come in are or are not, in some cases, funded up to that point, and that is your process. Now, if we truly are anticipating, because of the LSA, if we truly are anticipating significant increase in numbers, because I think in a given year, we have 5 to 6 kinds of requests of things that we don't already kind of capture within the budget. We capture the sculpture for first night. We capture the fireworks support, and then there's a few others that we do, and already within the budget. But I'm just, I mean, none of the suggestions here are poor suggestions in any way, shape, or form. I think it boils down to how transparent the council chooses to be. Personally, I personally don't like the whole matrix. I don't like scoring things that people are passionate about. And that would be my, I think we can do exactly what council has suggested here. But there is another option. And that's all that I wanted to throw out there. I'm not advocating one way or the other.
And I think, oh, go ahead.
No.
No.
No, I was
No,
going to
no,
say,
we're gonna wrap it up.
I think we are anticipating more of these. And candidly, it's when we first said yes.
Right.
Till then, we weren't getting asked.
Right.
And now we've said yes a couple times, and now we're getting asked more.
Yeah, it's
That's a
very
reality.
true.
Yes.
The other part of it is, I know from my side, I've gone through the United Way process. I've made the pitch, and I won, and I've also been on the evaluation side and everything. We don't want to get into being a grant.
Right.
You know, we do want to keep a cap, a very realistic cap. There's other ways of participating in this stuff and everything. But it has to be justifiable. Why do we say yes to this? Why do we say no to this?
Right.
Understood.
We have to be fair.
Right.
So I think the
the
matrix gives us
transparency
the
part.
opportunity to at least set some standards that allow for some moving towards
Yep.
standardization. I think for me, and I want to wrap this up, would be that I think we need to start as council budgeting the amount of money each year that we will dedicate to this. This needs to sort of pull itself out as a line item. We've had money in the general fund, yeah, we have enough. The other thing is, we have a good example in Center Lifeline. We made a decision to make a donation, but we added that as a line item. That when something rose to the level of something above this, what I would say are smaller grants, council always has the option to say, we identify that as a priority and we want to make that a line item. And that might be something we negotiate. So I think we're making, what we're doing is we're recognizing, particularly having been on council, that we're getting more requests. The LSA is going to generate even more requests. There are funding pressures out there for nonprofits and other worthy organizations, from 5Ks all the way up to nonprofits that need help. We want to help what we can, but we have a fiduciary responsibility. And if we start with that line item, $10,000, $12,000, I think we do have that this year. It was $13,000 or something like that. And then in accounting, each time we make an award, now we're at X.
Yes.
And then that gives us an opportunity to evaluate each thing. But I agree with Rich. I want us to be able to support the community and some of these opportunities to fund worthy causes, but we're not primarily a granting organization. So.
One other factor is our peers are saying yes to this stuff, and so when they say yes, then, well, let's go ask College Township too. They're the nicest in the region, so they'll of course get.
Yeah.
We are. And the LSA changes things for our township.
Well, except the manager, but
And
Post-its for all.
And we're incredibly collaborative, I like to think, and respectful. So, that was, do you have what you need, staff?
We'll bring it back.
Indeed. Old business. Hobbs. Our last item, I believe this is you, Don, and you're going to talk to us about another detour.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This one is a
First
cool-
it was the bats, then it was the trees, now it's the detour. We get all the good stuff tonight.
I would like to say that what I should have named this memo was closure of Hauserville Road to Ivy Hill Drive, not closure of Hauserville Road. I would like to point out that starting this week, the state has switched their work on the College Avenue Bridge. Up until this week, starting in May when they started their bridge project, Hauserville Road was totally shut off for traffic exiting Hauserville Road onto College Avenue. It was closed to any traffic going north on College Avenue, but it was open to traffic going south. You could still go onto Hauserville Road. Starting this week, Hauserville Road is totally shut off, which is one of the reasons we picked this year to do this project, because it's a lot less traffic. You can walk down Hauserville Road without living in fear of your life. But anyhow, our project started on July 6th. They have all the excavation done, all the fill put in, and now they're starting on stormwater. For the next 2 weeks, they'll be doing stormwater, and then roughly on September 7th, they'll be doing the curb and the sidewalk. I was talking to the contractor last week about this, and he's a little concerned with, they can maintain traffic, one lane of traffic with a flagger on either end. But when the concrete truck is there and they're working around it, they're a little concerned about the safety of the workers while that is going on. Now, like I said, traffic is way down. I actually haven't looked at it too much this week with a total closure out of College Avenue. But what he asked is for roughly a 2 or 3 week period, could they do a closure of Ivy Hill, which would eliminate traffic down to basically 2 residents. And actually one of them came in 2 days ago to talk about some other project, and I said, oh, while you're here, how do you feel about the idea that getting in and out of your house will be a little more difficult for a couple of weeks? He said he was fine with it. He is really in favor of this project. Fortunately, this is a popular project, and people are less likely to complain. But anyhow, if you look at the detour route, we would shut off the Ivy Hill Drive at College Avenue, and then they would have to, anyone going out this way would instead have to go out through Holly Ridge, Meadow Sweet, Mossy Glen out to Trout Road, and then from Trout Road to get back onto Hauserville Road. And at the end of what we're showing is the detour route, that's Puddintown Road. I should have had that labeled. But that's where traffic is being detoured now.
Everybody flies.
So there's some people who are coming down through Ivy Hill who would turn on to Hauserville to go down into Puddintown. Now they'd have it's a 2.2 mile detour. But interestingly, I had our newest GIS guru, Michael Probst. I said, what is the split in this where for some people it's not actually any longer to go the other way? And on the western side of Meadow Sweet Drive, that's the split. Anybody west of there, it's the same distance as if they were to go down to Ivy Hill Drive and come out. So for roughly maybe 25% of the residents of Stearns Crossing, it's really not going to be any more. But at any rate, looking at this, I don't think it's too onerous for a couple-week period to ask them to, and it'd be a daytime closure at the end of work. That road gets opened up again. But for 2 to 3 weeks, for worker safety, the concern is, when you're working around concrete, you're not watching the road real close. Even if they have flaggers there and they're controlling traffic, we have discovered that people maybe drive fast through there.
We've heard that, right?
Yeah, we've heard it. I've never actually witnessed it. But anyhow, so we're asking permission to do that. The contractor would be responsible for placing detour signage as needed through the route. Once the sidewalk is in and the curb is in, and probably one day for patching the paving along there, then it would be opened up again. We're hoping to be out of there mid to late September, where we will have that project wrapped up, and then that contractor will be going to Struble Road for another detour.
So you need a consensus from us.
We do.
Rich?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Gretchen?
Yes.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you.
Unanimity. Thank you. Next item up is staff informatives. Any questions there, anything? Next item up is council staff other matters. I do have something. The Center County Association of Township Officials will be having our fall convention, and that will be September 29th, which is a Tuesday, from 5 p.m. vendor mingle till 6 o'clock is dinner, and this year's top, did I get the date wrong?
No, you're right.
Oh.
6 o'clock is dinner.
6 o'clock is dinner,
Sorry.
and also the presenters, and our topic this year is disaster preparedness and community resilience, and we have 4 or 5 different speakers coming. Laura Fowler will talk about the tabletop exercise to get us sort of started, and then we've got some folks coming from the Mobile Lion Clinic. We've got a nonprofit crisis relief and recovery, and then the county emergency manager we're hoping will be able to join us, or Jonathan Risley will, to wrap us up and give us some takeaways for all of our. So I hope College Township, last year somehow we didn't get that out in time, or maybe it was the spring convention, so I wanted all my council colleagues to know. Katie is our secretary treasurer. She's running herd on our executive committee, and we're doing the best we can to get it. So it's a top treat. It's a top treat, so it'll be good food. So if you're interested, I know Rich is already Eric is already RSVP'd. So save the date. Please come. Yep. right, then I would take a motion unless somebody else has something.
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.
Bye.